Chapter 11:18. 11:18 The 40 people who passed. At this moment, an ordinary-looking young man stepped out. This young man was really ordinary. His appearance was ordinary, and his body was also ordinary. He had a medium build, and his face was very calm. He didn't have an overbearing arrogance, nor did he have the noble and overbearing aura of a king. He was just like an ordinary young man. However, the moment this young man walked out, he attracted everyone's attention. Even the sovereigns turned their gazes over. That was because the young man was Long Chen. Long Chen was a well-known name in the Central Continent. He was the overlord of the Central Continent's younger generation. No one could defeat him. All along the way, he had never tasted defeat among his peers. During the Battle of Providence, he had already entered the spiritual god realm, leading the other 4 magnates by a large margin. He was known as a heaven's favorite that only appeared once in 100,000 years in Central Continent. No one said anything. Everyone's eyes were on Long Chen, waiting to see how he would react. Bang! Long Chen took a step forward. That's right, it was just an ordinary step and then another. Just like that, he took one step at a time and walked forward step by step. One step covered several miles. His speed wasn't fast. Let alone Yang Padian and the others, he wasn't even as fast as a second-grade heaven's favorite. He took a few steps forward and arrived in front of the first figure. The figure struck out with his palm, and Long Chen did the same. With a bang, the figure exploded. Then, Long Chen continued to move forward. Very quickly, they arrived at the second stage. In front of the 3 figures, he also struck out with his palm, and the 3 figures exploded. Then he continued to step forward and came to the third stage. He waved his palm again and the 9 figures exploded at the same time. It seemed very easy, like the clouds and the wind. Then he stepped onto the platform. The speed of his stride wasn't fast, but the speed at which he passed the level was very fast. Those figures couldn't stop him at all. Therefore, in general, he had surpassed most of the second-grade heaven's favorites. This person is unfathomable. Lu Ming stared at Long Chen and realized that he could not see through him at all. I'll go too. Lu Ming smiled and stepped out. He randomly chose a path and rushed forward. Lu Ming's performance was not too amazing. Although he also cleared the level at an extremely fast speed, his speed was only average among the second-grade prodigies and he did not cause too much of a shock. As Lu Ming could suppress Wu Song previously, it was normal for him to have such a result. The others were not surprised. After Lu Ming, a few other second-grade geniuses followed. After the second-grade heaven's favorites finished, no one else tried. The remaining third-grade heaven's favorites, and even the weaker ones, all shook their heads. They didn't need to try, because it was impossible for them to pass. All right, the selection is over. Let's go, Xiechigin said. With a wave of his hand, the 18 rainbow paths disappeared. At the scene, everyone's eyes fell on the platform. On the platform, there were a total of 40 people. In other words, there were only 40 people who passed the selection. Nanming is really powerful. He has 2 people who are suspected to be on the same level as the 5 magnates and 3 second-grade heaven's favorites. Northern Plains is also very powerful. Other than to Obashur, there are also 3 second-grade heaven's favorites. I feel that the Western Desert is the most unfathomable. There are 2 people who are suspected to be big shots, but not a single second-grade heaven's favorite. That's not realistic. I think even the second-grade heaven's favorites aren't here, so I can't see their depths at all. Indeed, the Western Desert has always been unfathomable and has a long history. No one knows how many years ago the Western Desert Saint Monk appeared. Speaking of which, the East Continent is really embarrassed. Only one Emperor God passed the handsome selection. Ha! Many people were discussing it. Lu Ming looked around and it was true. Without a doubt, the Central Continent had the most people. Apart from him, there were 27 people. 5 from Southern Nether, 4 from Northern Plains, and 2 from Western Desert, but the 2 from Western Desert had unfathomable strength. In the East Baron, there was only the Emperor God. The Eastern Barren Territory? Li Lai is the weakest in the Forsaken Land, so how can there be any prodigies? It's already good enough that they have an emperor god. I heard that there's also a person called Lu Ming who's above the emperor god realm, but he didn't come. No, he didn't. I'm afraid he has declined, so he doesn't dare to come. He used to be stronger than an emperor god, but now he's probably even weaker than an emperor god. You're right, let's not talk about the East Continent. The crowd discussed and expressed their opinions, but when the Eastern Barren Territory was mentioned, they all looked contemptuous. In the crowd, Xue Jinyi, Ao2, Dongfang Yu, and the others gritted their teeth as they listened. But in his heart, he felt helpless. The Eastern Barren Territory was indeed the weakest. This was an indisputable fact. They used to be the top figures in the East Continent. They were confident that they could make a name for themselves in the Central Continent. But ever since he came to Central Continent, he had suffered a huge blow. There were too many people in the Central Continent who were stronger than them. Even the Emperor God was only a second-grade heaven's favorite. This made them feel dejected. I wonder what kind of reputation Lu Ming will make if he comes to the Central Continent. I guess he'll only be suppressed and won't be able to cause much trouble. At that moment, Bloodsword 1, Dongfang Yu, Ao2, and the rest remembered Lu Ming. However, they felt that even if Lu Ming were to come, he would not be as good as an emperor god. The Supreme Emperor had comprehended the will of space and was extremely powerful. In the Battle of Providence, the Supreme Emperor's will of space was still weak, but it would become stronger and stronger as time went on. They believed that the current emperor god had already surpassed Lu Ming. All right, a total of 40 people. Let's begin the first round of competition. The rules of the first round are very simple. I've recorded the time you took to pass the selection. Now, I'll divide you into two groups according to the time you took to clear the trial. The shorter the time, the better the results. The top 20 will be in one batch and the last 20 will be in another. The rule of the first round is that the last 20 will challenge the top 20. If they succeed, they will advance directly. If they fail, they will be eliminated. Furthermore, everyone can only challenge once. The one being challenged can only accept one challenge. Xie Qitian announced. What? The bottom 20 will challenge the top 20? Many people's expressions changed. Without a doubt, Yang Padian, Shirdu, and the others took the shortest amount of time. The challenged could only accept one challenge. This meant that there was definitely someone who wanted to challenge Yang Padian. In that case, wouldn't Shirdu and the others lose for sure? Now, I'll announce the names of the last 20 people. Wucong Blood Luo Zi. Xie Qitian announced the names of the last 20, and the people who were called had rather unsightly expressions. At the same time, they began to size up the 20 people who had not been named. I didn't expect to enter the top 20. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Other than him, the second-grade geniuses that Lu Ming knew, such as the Sandalwood Fairy, Jing Kongling, Dishin, and Wu Chengkong, had all entered the top 20. On the other hand, Kong Xian, Jun Yu, and the others were in the last 20. Lu Yusin was also in the last 20, and her expression was rather unsightly. The 20 at the back were sizing up the 20 at the front and choosing their opponents. Chapter 1119. 1119 Chapter 1119 Battling Lu Yusin. Yang Padian, Shirdu, Kong Lin, and Long Chen were directly ignored by them. He also ignored people like Tuobashir and the unscrupulous monk. Challenging them would be no different from admitting defeat. In addition, emperor gods who have grasped the concept of space are also excluded. Wu Chengkong, who had always been at the top of the second-grade heaven's favorites, was also excluded. There were also a few other people who were unfathomable. There were also the two magnificently beautiful goddesses, Tan Xiang Fairy and Jing Kongling. They were the targets of many people's pursuit. Of course, no one would challenge them. There were only a few people left. Many people's gazes swept between Lu Ming and the other two. Although Lu Ming had defeated Wu Cong before, Wu Cong was considered weak among the second-grade talents. Moreover, Lu Ming had used a treasure to block the attack of a fourth-level spiritual god previously. However, in such a situation, he would naturally not let you use a treasure to win. You would still have to rely on your own strength. Therefore, Lu Ming was undoubtedly one of the best targets to challenge. Before we start, I'll make 2 points. First, this is only a competition, so you can't kill your opponent. Second, you can't rely too much on external objects. You have to rely on your own strength. Xie Qitian announced. You, Big Beard, I challenge you. What are you doing? That big-bearded man is mine. All of you get lost. He's mine. As soon as Xie Qitian finished his sentence, a few people had their eyes on Lu Ming, wanting to challenge him. Nest, do you all think I'm easy to bully? Lu Ming's eyes were filled with ferocity as he swept his gaze over the few of them. Wait a minute. It's too chaotic to challenge like this. Let's do it according to the results. Those with good results in the last 20 can have the priority to challenge. Xie Qitian's voice was heard, and the entire place fell silent. Then, an old man walked out and reported the names of the last 20 people. The more they reported, the uglier their expressions became. Those with good results could challenge first, so they would definitely challenge the weaker ones. In other words, the one who stayed until the end would definitely be the strongest. For example, who would challenge Long Qin, Yang Padian, and the others? Those who were ranked lower would definitely encounter Yang Padian and the others. How could their expressions be good? Now, let's begin. Xie Qitian announced after the ranking was announced. I'll go first. Lu Yusin stepped out. Her result was the best among the last 20 people. She had almost charged into the top 20. She swept her gaze across the room and eventually landed on Lu Ming. A cold glint flashed across her eyes as she said, Big Beard, I challenge you. Previously, Lu Ming did not give her any face and even suppressed the Cold Blood Hall's talent in front of everyone. In Lu Yusin's opinion, this was a slap to her face. She had long wanted to teach Lu Ming a lesson. Now that she had such a chance, how could she miss it? Little girl, you want to challenge me? Just like I said before, be careful or I'll beat you up. Lu Ming grinned, his gaze sweeping across a certain part of Lu Yusin. You're looking for death. Lu Yusin's expression was ugly. This guy is really looking for death. One of the big 5, Lion Capital, emitted a cold light and killing intent from his eyes, causing the people standing beside him to shiver. In the central continent, everyone knew that the Lion Capital had always been Lu Yusin's pursuer. Since Lu Ming dared to tease Lu Yusin like this, it was obvious that the Lion Capital had its eyes on him. Lu Yusin challenged Lu Ming. The others retreated and stood at the edge of the platform. Only Lu Ming and Lu Yusin were standing opposite each other on the platform. If I don't beat you up until you beg for mercy, my name isn't Lu Yusin. Lu Yusin's beautiful eyes were filled with coldness. She had enough confidence to defeat Lu Ming. This was because she hadn't used her full strength when she was screening. Buzz! All of a sudden, Lu Yusin moved and pounced toward Lu Ming. The strange thing was that as Lu Yusin rushed out, her figure actually increased in number. 1 split into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8. In the end, the platform was filled with Lu Yusin's silhouettes. There were hundreds of them, and they were densely packed, surrounding Lu Yusin. This is the illusionary demon movement technique of the illusionary sect. Lu Yusin has actually cultivated it to this level. It's truly shocking. At the edge of the platform, a second-grade Heaven's favorite recognized this movement technique and revealed a serious expression. How could they resist when hundreds of figures appeared all at once? Lu Yusin's combat strength was considered to be in the upper tier even among the second-grade Heaven's favorites. Illusionary Demon Finger. With a delicate shout, the hundreds of figures stretched out their hands at the same time. Her slender fingers were more powerful than divine weapons. They pierced through the void and tried to kill Lu Ming. Whoosh! Whoosh! From all directions, the finger force was aimed at Lu Ming's vital points. A black long spear appeared in Lu Ming's hands. Minglu was from the Black Spear sect, So he had bought a black spear, a medium lever 8 spiritual weapon, some time ago. Buzz. Whoosh. The long spear shook, and a black spear flower condensed in the air and flew toward the finger force. Bang. Bang. A wave of dense collision sounds rang out, and the spear flowers and finger forces disappeared one after another. Buzz. Then, the black spear's radiance expanded and swept out with the momentum of sweeping away thousands of troops. However, Lu Yusen's movement technique was indeed impressive. In the face of such an attack, hundreds of figures floated on the platform, flashing and avoiding Lu Ming's long spear. Let's see how many shots you can dodge. Lu Ming held the long spear in his hand and continuously swept it out. The spear's gleam was like a black dragon, surging violently on the huge platform and enveloping the entire platform. Although Lu Yusen's movement technique was strong, on such a platform, its power was greatly reduced. Soon she couldn't avoid it. One by one, her figure was hit by the spear light and dissipated. Umph. Lu Yusen snorted coldly. She didn't retreat, but advanced instead. Her figure flickered non-stop, and she was incredibly fast. Lu Ming's spear was like a dragon, but he could not hit him. As she neared Lu Ming, a cloud of gray fog appeared above Lu Yusen's head. On the gray fog, there were 8 golden chakras. This was Lu Yusen's bloodline. Great dream of spring and autumn. At that moment, Lu Yusen turned into a cloud of gray mist. The gray mist expanded rapidly and enveloped Lu Ming. When Lu Ming was enveloped by the gray fog, the surrounding world suddenly changed. Boom! The earth shook violently. Lu Ming saw that a brutal battle was taking place in front of him. Talisman Amulet Sect. Lu Ming was greatly shocked. In front of them was the Talisman Amulet Sect. At this moment, the yin and yang formation of the Talisman Amulet Sect had been broken. The army of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace was swarming in and killing their way into the yin and yang mountain. At this moment, both sides were engaged in a bloody battle. He saw Yen Kuangtu, the 9 Sons Supreme, being killed by Martial Emperor by Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others had died at the hands of the supreme martial artists of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace. His parents, his disciples, and his friends had all been turned into ashes in the bloody battle. Illusion, illusion, this is an illusion. Lu Ming took a deep breath, his eyes glimmering. In the secret realm of the Saint Mansion, he had once entered an illusion created by a being that surpassed the emperor level and almost lost himself. Compared to that illusion, this one was too fake. How could it confuse Lu Ming? Lu Ming slowly closed his eyes. Chapter 1120. 1120 Red Eyes from Envy. At this moment, the paragons, the emperors, supremes, and many other powerful cultivators, including those in the air and in the sacred city, were all staring at the platform. He looked at Lu Ming's figure, which was shrouded in gray fog. It's Lu Yusen's great dream of spring and autumn. That guy called Minglu is finished. He's been enveloped by the great dream of spring and autumn. The outcome has been decided. That's right. Once Lu Yusen's great dream of spring and autumn is used, the only thing one can do is to retreat. Once enveloped, one will fall into an endless illusion. Even the top 5 young warriors will be in danger. Lu Yusen has won. A few of the second-grade Heaven's favorites were discussing. They knew how terrifying Lu Yusen's dream was. This was Lu Yusen's bloodline's secret technique, which was very mysterious and unpredictable. After that, no one said anything. They just waited quietly. In the gray fog, Lu Ming's eyes were tightly shut. However, it was only 2 minutes before he suddenly opened his eyes. Let's end this. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled into a smile. He shouted softly, and the scene of the Talisman Sect's battle in front of him suddenly froze. Then, it shattered like a mirror and turned into nothingness. Lu Ming was still standing on the platform. The gray fog surrounded him. Break! Lu Ming's palm was like a sword. The 5-colored will burst forth, and he struck down. Boom! The earth shook and the gray fog rolled. It was constantly being destroyed by Lu Ming's essential core. In the next moment, Lu Ming took a step forward and rushed in one direction. He grabbed with his claws and a terrifying force suddenly exploded. In this direction, the gray fog was obliterated and Lu Yusin's figure appeared. At this moment, her beautiful eyes were wide open and her small mouth was open. Her face was full of disbelief. His vital essence condensed into a huge hand and grabbed Lu Yusin. Vital essence poured in and sealed all the major acupuncture points in Lu Yusin's body, making her unable to circulate her vital essence. As Lu Yusin was caught by Lu Ming, the surrounding gray fog dissipated. When the crowd saw this scene, they were stunned. Lu Yusin was defeated and captured. What happened? Earlier on, the gray fog had shrouded them. Many people did not see what had happened clearly and thought that Lu Ming would definitely lose. However, they did not expect to see this scene after waiting for 2 minutes and the fog had dissipated. Some of the emperors and supreme martial artists' eyes flickered, but they didn't say anything. They had obviously noticed something. "Let me go." Lu Yusin struggled with all her might in the Zhenyuan hand, but with his Zhenyuan sealed, how could he struggle with just his physical strength? "Let you go? Hehe, did I forget what I just said?" Lu Ming grinned, his eyes darting around Lu Yusin's body. Lu Yusin shivered. She glared at Lu Ming and said, "What are you trying to do?" "Of course I'm going to beat you up." Lu Ming's mouth cracked into a smile and his beard trembled. "Don't you dare." Lu Yusin glared at Lu Ming. Her threat was obvious. "You still dare to threaten me? You're looking for a beating." With a thought, he controlled his Zhenyuan and grabbed Lu Yusin. Then, he slapped a certain part of Lu Yusin's body. Pa! A crisp sound reverberated throughout the entire area. Lu Ming's palm smacked heavily on it. Silence! The scene fell into a dead silence. Countless people stared at the scene with their mouths wide open. He hit Lu Yusin's taxi. After a long time, someone finally stammered, but after a long time, he couldn't continue. They couldn't believe it. The unparalleled beauty, Lu Yusin, had actually been beaten in public. This was simply unbelievable. How could this Ming Lu have such courage? Lu Yusin was one of the 5 most beautiful women in the central continent. Of course, there were even more people who were envious, regardless of whether they were young or old. Some people were so envious that their eyes turned red. She was one of the 5 great beauties of the central continent. They wanted to give her a slap and have a taste of her, but they didn't dare to. "You're looking for death. Kill." A loud roar was heard as a terrifying killing intent burst forth. A golden light shot up into the sky. Du looked at Lu Ming with killing intent, wishing he could tear Lu Ming into pieces. As everyone knew, all the lions had been pursuing Lu Yusin. Since Lu Ming dared to treat Lu Yusin like this, he naturally wanted to kill Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Yusin was stunned. She widened her eyes and stared at Lu Ming in a daze. After a long while, she let out an earth-shattering scream. She was actually by Lu Ming in front of everyone. This way. She wished there was a crack in the ground and she could bury her head in it. "You're dead. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you." Lu Yusin screamed and struggled with all her might. "What are you shouting for? You dare to threaten me, hit me again." Lu Ming berated him and slapped him again. The crisp sound reverberated throughout the entire area. All the onlookers' eyes were about to explode, especially the men. They were so envious that their eyes turned red. Some of them were so excited that they were trembling. It was as if they had replaced Lu Ming to teach Lu Yusin a lesson. "Commander! The commander!" Tai Xing and the law enforcement army were completely speechless. They knew that Lu Ming was impressive, but this was too impressive. Even some of the emperors and supreme beings at the table felt their eyelids twitch and their hearts stir. "Impudent!" One of the supreme beings from the Tranquil Illusion sect couldn't take it anymore. He shouted, and the might of a supreme being filled the air. However, they were immediately stopped by the emperor of the Yohuan sect. Today was the million-year sacrificial ceremony of the ancient Saint dynasty, and all the powerful cultivators had gathered. Moreover, Lu Ming and Lu Yusin were having a fair battle on the battle stage. It was not appropriate for them to interfere. Ming, you're dead. The golden light on Lion City's body grew brighter and a terrifying killing intent enveloped Lu Ming. What are you shouting for? For you? Shut up. Shut up. Lu Ming looked at Shirdu coldly and shouted. This made Shirdu furious and he almost rushed out to kill Lu Ming. In the end, he held back. With all the emperors gathered here, he did not dare to break the rules. You still dare to threaten me? Lu Ming's gaze turned to Lu Yusin again. I'm going to kill you. Lu Yusin screamed. Pa! Another slap landed, and Lu Yusin's screams came to an abrupt end. As for the people who were watching, they were already numb. This overpowered commander was simply too overpowered and heaven-defying. He was completely lawless and audacious. I've never heard of this Minglu before. He appeared out of nowhere. First, he suppressed Wuzong. Now, he's treating Lu Yusin like this. To be honest, I'm impressed. Said a heaven's favorite. He looked simple and honest. Everyone recognized him as a heaven's favorite from the Soldier King's residence. My hair is white, I am a little monk. I'm so envious. A Buddhist proclamation sounded. Everyone was stunned, because the person who said that he was envious was an unscrupulous monk. However, he was a monk. What was there to be envious of? Did he want to give it a try? Many people were speechless. Amitabha. The Buddha of the Western Desert called out the name of Buddha, seemingly embarrassed. Chapter 1121. 1121 Chapter 1121 Melee. Are you still threatening me? Lu Ming continued to look at Lu Yusin. Lu Yusin bit her lips tightly. This time, she didn't dare to say anything. That's right. I've warned you twice before, but you didn't listen. You're just a little girl. I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of your elders. Don't hold a grudge. I'm doing this for your own good. Lu Ming spoke with conviction, like an elder disciplining a junior. In addition to his long beard, he looked like he was almost 40 years old. He really did have that kind of taste. Lu Yusin could only glare at Lu Ming hatefully. She did not dare to say a word, but she could not wait to cut Lu Ming into 1,000 pieces. She hated it. In the future, when people saw her, they would definitely think of this big bearded man. Alright, that's all for today. Be more obedient in the future and don't be so arrogant. With that, Lu Ming waved his hand and Lu Yusin flew out. When she flew out of the platform, Lu Ming had already released the quintessential essence that was sealed in her body. Lu Yusin's body was filled with quintessential essence. She glanced at Lu Ming with killing intent, then flew toward the illusionary sect's seat without saying a word. Ming Lu wins this battle. An elder from the royal Xie family announced. Lu Ming grinned and walked to the side of the platform. This big brother is amazing. This little monk is impressed. At the side, the unscrupulous monk put his hands together in front of his chest, his face full of admiration. This made the people around him feel extremely despondent. Was this monk really a holy monk from the Western Desert? Master, you're too kind. Lu Ming said casually, but he did not dare to look down on this unscrupulous monk. He felt that this monk was unfathomable. Next, the competition continued. One of the southern underworld's geniuses stepped forward. His ranking was only second to Lu Yusin. This person chose a heaven's favorite who was slightly weaker. Unfortunately, he still failed and followed in Lu Yusin's footsteps. Next, the challenges continued one by one. The two people who came out later were both very powerful, and they both won. However, from the fifth challenge onwards, the challengers began to lose consecutively. Kong Xan had challenged Wu Qingkong and was defeated. Wu Qingkong's cultivation had reached the second level of the spiritual god realm. He must have made another breakthrough during this period. Two people challenged goddess Tan Xiang and Jing Kongling, but they both failed. Fairy Tan Xiang had used her body to inscribe the formation. The killing formation within her body erupted and was extremely powerful. In addition to his pill refining and weapon transformation technique, His combat strength was astonishing. The pure sky spirit had comprehended 3 intents, and the fusion of the 3 intents was mysterious and unpredictable. Its combat power was also very strong, so it wouldn't be very difficult to defeat an opponent. Then, someone challenged the Emperor God. Space Will was indeed the king of will. The more he cultivated, the more powerful it became. In the end, Emperor God also defeated his opponent and kept his place in the top 20. Soon, only Long Chen, Yang Padian, and the Heartless Monk were left. The remaining 9 people who had not challenged him had extremely ugly expressions. Some people were really unwilling to give up, and after picking and choosing, they finally chose the unscrupulous monk. This guy doesn't look reliable, maybe his combat strength isn't strong. Then, the second-grade Heaven's favorite who issued the challenge was sent flying off the platform by the unscrupulous monk. Winning in one move, the difference was too great. The remaining 8 sighed. They knew that there was no point in challenging him, so they all admitted defeat. The first round ended. There were 20 people left. The crowd turned to look at Xia Qitian, curious to know the rules of the next round. Was it going to be a one-on-one battle again? Let's decide the winner in the second round and the ranking in one fell swoop. The 20 of you will fight in a free-for-all on the platform. You can fight however you like, and the results will be calculated based on the time you stay on the platform. The longer you stay on the platform, the better the results will be. The top 10 and top 3 will be decided in the end. Xia Qitian said. Chaotic battle? Everyone was shocked. Xia Qitian had actually decided to use a free-for-all method, allowing the 20 supreme talents on the field to decide the winner in a free-for-all. The situation had become complicated. A chaotic battle was not a one-on-one battle. One could join forces or form an alliance. The situation was ever-changing. Now, let's begin. Xia Qitian's voice reverberated throughout the entire area. Buzz. Bush. As soon as Xia Qitian's voice fell, a figure flashed on the platform, away from the people around him, and stared at the others cautiously. Because, other than yourself, everyone else is an enemy, and you can't be sure who will suddenly attack you. Only Long Chen was calm and indifferent. He stood there casually, looking straight ahead as if he didn't care at all. On the platform, everyone looked at each other, and the atmosphere was extremely tense. Yang Padian, let's continue our battle. We must determine the winner today. A loud roar broke the silence. Tuoba Shur charged towards Yang Padian with his mace in hand. That's just what I want. I'll defeat you today. The heavenly halberd appeared in Yang Potion's hand. He took a step forward and charged towards Tuoba Shur. Boom! The Heaven Scorcher halberd and the Wolf-Tooth Club collided heavily. The space was directly torn apart, and a terrifying force swept in all directions. Third level of the spiritual god realm. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. Yang Padian and Tuoba Ashur's cultivation had indeed broken through to the third level of the spiritual god realm. They were even more powerful than when they were in the Saint Mansion's secret realm. This kind of heaven's favorite was truly terrifying. Not only was his combat strength shocking, but his cultivation speed was also terrifyingly fast. Boom, boom, boom. The two of them exchanged over a dozen moves in a row, and the entire world seemed to be trembling. So strong. The second-grade Heaven's favorites were shocked when they saw this. Was this the strength of a young big shot? He was too strong. How could they compete with him? Bald donkeys of Western Desert, let's see if you have made any progress in your strength after not making a move for a while. Nan Ming, the young man covered in black flames, stared at the monk and the female bodhisattva. Little fire dog, this little monk will grant you your wish. The heartless monk stepped forward with a dignified expression. His entire body was covered in golden light as he struck out a golden palm towards the young man who was covered in black flames. The black flames on the young man's body started to burn. It was extremely terrifying, as if it was the flames from hell. Boom! Boom! The unscrupulous monk and the young man with black flames exchanged a few blows. The flames and golden light split the world into two, and the people around them retreated far away. Fortunately, The platform was large enough and sturdy. Otherwise, the others would not have a place to stand. The commotion caused by the battle between the two of them was no less than that caused by Yang Padian and Tuobashur. Amitba. The female bodhisattva of the western desert chanted the name of Buddha, and the light of Buddha filled the air as she stepped out. With every step she took, a golden lotus would appear under her feet. It was holy and beautiful. Her target was Dark Child. The western desert and the southern nether had been enemies since ancient times. One was Buddha, the other evil. The heavens' favorites from the two territories had known each other for a long time and had fought many times in the past. Now that they met here, they would naturally fight each other. Without a doubt, Dark Child and the female bodhisattva were also powerful figures. The battle between the two was extremely shocking. Chapter 1122. 1122 Chapter 1122 Looking for Abuse. As soon as the competition began, the supreme geniuses of the western desert and southern underworld began to fight each other, while Yang Padian and Tuobashur fought. The 6 heavens favorites were fighting intensely, but no one else moved. Long Chun stood there calmly, his face calm and his aura calm. He didn't look like anything special, but since everyone had taken the initiative to keep a distance from him, no one would go up and attack him. The heavens favorites of the big shot level were still Lion Capital and Kong Lin. The two of them scanned the second-grade heavens favorites with cold eyes. This was especially so for Shirdu. His cold eyes were filled with killing intent as he swept his gaze across Lu Ming from time to time. The remaining second-grade heavens favorites were all on guard against each other, pulling apart the distance. Brother Lion, Brother Kong, I have a suggestion. Why don't we join forces and take down all these people? Then, there will only be 10 of us left on the field. Wu Qingkong suggested as he walked toward the Lion City. Then he swept his gaze across all the second-grade geniuses, including Lu Ming. The second-grade heavens favorites' expressions changed. There were 9 heavens favorites at the top level. Including Wu Qingkong, there were 10 of them. Wu Qingkong's intention was obvious. He would sweep everyone off the platform and secure a spot in the top 10. Shirdyu's and Kong Lin's gazes flickered, and they also swept across everyone. All right, we'll do as you say, Shirdu said. The Lion Tiger Hall had a good relationship with the Heavenly Sword faction, and the Lion City had a good relationship with Wu Qingkong. That was why he agreed to Wu Qingkong's suggestion. There was also another reason. It was also beneficial for them to have 10 people left on the field earlier. The heavens favorites of the big shots would definitely start a competition. However, if they fought now and one of them was defeated, wouldn't they fall out of the top 10 and be taken advantage of by the second-grade heavens favorites? If they were able to secure a spot in the top 10, they would be able to fight to their heart's content. Even if they were defeated, they could still enter the ancient hall to comprehend. Kong Lin clearly thought of this point too. His gaze flickered and he said, I also agree. All right, Kong Lin, then let's join forces first and clear up these trash. Shirdu sneered, his eyes cold. The second-grade heavens favorites all had ugly expressions. Wu Qingkong, you're despicable. Damn it. Everyone, I suggest that we join forces. Otherwise, we will all be defeated. Alright, I agree. Let's join forces. A few second-class heavens favorites spoke one after another. With a flash, 6 second-class heavens favorites gathered together. They planned to fight Shirdu, Kong Lin, and Wu Qingkong together. However, Goddess Tan Xiang and Jing Kongling didn't go with them. The 2 peerless goddesses gathered together and retreated to the side. In addition, the Emperor God didn't join them. He moved back in a flash. Of course, it was impossible for Lu Ming to gather with them. You guys, why aren't you coming over? Do you want to be defeated by them one by one? A young man glanced at Di Xin and Lu Ming and shouted coldly. I don't need you to worry about me. Lu Ming smiled faintly. You're so stubborn. You think you have some strength and you're so proud. Let's see how you lose. The young man berated Lu Ming. He was rather unhappy that Lu Ming did not join them. Do it. Shirdu spoke and stared at Lu Ming first. Brother Lion, you don't need to attack this guy. I'll take him down. Wu Qinkong said, his eyes fixed on Lu Ming. But the Sage Emperor just said that we can't kill him, but that's only what we can't do. You know what to do, right? Shirdu pondered for a moment and nodded. Don't worry, I'll break all his limbs and bones. I'll make sure he won't be able to get out of bed for half a year. Wu Qinkong smiled hideously. Now that he had broken through to the second level of the spiritual god realm, his combat strength had greatly increased. He was full of confidence and did not take Lu Ming seriously at all. Bang! Bang! He took a few steps forward and the sword chi around him whistled as he approached Lu Ming. How dare you hurt the hero of my heavenly sword faction? I'll let you know the consequences. Wu Qinkong's voice was cold. His eyes were sharp like swords. Scumbag of the heavenly sword faction, it seems that you have not learned your lesson. This time, I will make sure you learn your lesson. Lu Ming's eyes glinted coldly. He took a step forward and threw a palm at Wu Qinkong. Buzz! The sword chi let out a long cry. Wu Qinkong unsheathed his sword and the sharp sword chi slashed towards Lu Ming. His cultivation had broken through to the second level of the spiritual god realm, and his combat strength was much stronger than when he was in the Saint Mansion's secret realm. The sword chi cut through the void and slashed toward Lu Ming. Boom! Lu Ming's palm struck Wu Qinkong's sword chi and destroyed it. At the same time, he continued to attack. Clang! The palm landed on the sword, and a loud boom was heard. The sword kept shaking. Wu Qinkong felt as if he had been hit by an ancient mountain. He felt a terrible force surging toward him, forcing him to retreat. How is that possible? Wu Qinkong roared. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He was actually forced back by Lu Ming's palm. He was already at the top among the second-grade prodigies. Now, he was ahead of the other second-grade prodigies and was the first to enter the second level of the spiritual god realm. His combat strength was so strong that he was almost unrivaled under the big shots. However, he was forced back by Lu Ming's palm. This was unacceptable to him. The surrounding spectators were also shocked. The bearded commander's combat power was beyond expectations. Could he really rival or even defeat Wu Qinkong? Boom! Boom! At this time, Shirdu and Kong Lin had already made their move. The two of them displayed terrifying combat power and launched a storm of attacks on those 6 second-grade Heavens favorites. Although the 6 second-grade Heavens favorites tried their best to defend, they were still at a disadvantage. This showed how powerful a Heavens favorite is. Thump! Lu Ming took a step forward and the entire platform rumbled. His essential core surged and he used the prison suppressing heaven technique. His every move contained terrifying power. He appeared in front of Wu Qinkong in an instant. He turned his palm into a fist and threw a few punches. The punch carried boundless power. The sky shook and groaned as if it could not withstand Lu Ming's punch. How can he be so strong? Wu Qinkong was terrified. He exerted all his strength and slashed out shocking sword chi continuously. However, all of them were suppressed and crushed by Lu Ming's fist. Lu Ming's momentum was unstoppable. Wu Qinkong kept retreating. His body trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Burst! Burst! As Wu Qinkong retreated, he activated his bloodline power and transformed into a sword. However, it was useless. Lu Ming's fist was too brutal and suppressed everything. Clang! 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 After 7 punches, Wu Qinkong's sword exploded. His body reappeared, spitting blood and looking pale. He had lost. Wu Qinkong had lost. This result was beyond the expectations of many people. Although Lu Ming had defeated Wu Tsong previously, Wu Tsong was considered weak among the second-grade geniuses. Wu Qinkong, on the other hand, was a top second-grade genius and had already broken through to the second level of the spiritual god realm. His combat strength was much stronger than Wu Tsong's. In the beginning, no one thought that Lu Ming could be a match for Wu Qinkong. This commander of the law enforcement army is really unexpected. Some of the older generation sighed. As for Tai Xing and the others, the corners of their mouths twitched, and they were already numb. Chapter 1123. 1123 Fighting against the geniuses of the big shots. Pa! Lu Ming rushed over and slapped Wu Qingkong's face. Ard. Wu Qingkong screamed and smashed his body on the platform. His head hit the platform like an iron hammer. Wu Qingkong's head was buzzing. He was completely dumbfounded. Gotcha! Then, a heart-piercing pain came from his left leg, which woke him up. My leg! He screamed. Lu Ming stepped on one of his legs, completely breaking the bones. Gotcha! Then, Lu Ming stepped on his right leg and broke it. Wu Qingkong screamed and broke out in a cold sweat. What are you shouting for? Didn't you just say that you were going to break my limbs and all my bones? Since that's the case, why don't you try it yourself? Lu Ming shouted. A long spear was condensed in his hand. He swept it across Wu Qingkong's arms, breaking the bones in his arms. This was not an ordinary breaking of bones. It contained Lu Ming's terrifying vital essence. The vibration of the vital essence shattered the bones in Wu Qingkong's entire arm. Even with Wu Qingkong's powerful cultivation and physical strength, he would need at least a few months to recover. In the stands, the higher-ups of the Heavenly Martial Sword School had unsightly expressions on their faces. Some people could not wait to rush forward and cut Lu Ming into 8 pieces. However, in such an occasion, they could only endure it. That's fucking unpleasant to hear. It's like a pig being slaughtered. Get lost. Finally, Lu Ming gave Wu Qingkong a kick, sending him flying off the platform. Of course, the last kick had shattered Wu Qingkong's bones. It would take him at least half a year to recover. Geniuses fought against each other. Wu Qingkong would probably be caught up or even surpassed by other geniuses in the same realm within half a year. A disciple of the Sky Martial Sword faction flew out and caught Wu Qingkong. He was carried to the stands, and an elder of the Sky Martial Sword faction fed him a healing pill. That little thief is so ruthless. The elder of the Heavenly Martial Sword faction gritted his teeth in hatred. Lu Ming was too ruthless. He had really shattered Wu Qingkong's bones and armor. Not a single piece was intact. It was really difficult to recover in a short time. At this moment, the battle on the platform was even more intense. Lu Ming had defeated Wu Qingkong, and Shirdu and Kong Lin were about to win. One of the 6 second-grade Heaven's favorites had already been knocked off the platform. That good for nothing. You're courting death. Shirdu shouted when he saw Wu Qingkong being defeated. Then, he howled and his body glowed with golden light. The next moment, Shirdu transformed into his true form. It was a golden lion that was 5 meters tall and more than 10 meters long. It was covered in golden fur, and there were even golden flames dancing on its fur. The Sun Divine Lion. The lion capital possessed 90% of the Sun Divine Lion's bloodline and was on the verge of becoming a pure-blooded Sun Divine Lion. As long as he could break through to the Emperor realm and undergo a transformation, he would become a true Sun Divine Lion. Roar! Even the lion roared loudly. He was even more terrifying in his true form. His roar shook the world and the clouds in the sky were scattered. The huge claw slapped out and a second-grade Heaven's favorite was sent flying off the platform, blood spurting out of his mouth. The difference was too great, and he was seriously injured in one move. The second-grade Heaven's Pride experts who were able to enter the top 20 were the strongest among the second-grade Heaven's Pride experts. However, they were still no match for Shirdu. Even the lion roared. Golden flames were boiling, and his combat strength was violent. He continued to burst out, and another 2 geniuses were sent flying. The remaining 2 were sent flying by Kong Lin's 2 slaps. The 6 second-grade Heaven's favorites were all defeated. Including Wu Qingkong, who was kicked away by Lu Ming, there were a total of 7 people who were defeated. There were only 13 people left on the platform. As long as he could take down 3 more people, the top 10 would be born. Even the lion's cold gaze landed on Lu Ming first. On the other side, Kong Lin's gaze first swept across Goddess Tan Xiang and Jing Kongling, then landed on the Emperor God. Lion capital, I'll take care of this Emperor God and you'll take care of Ming Lu. How about one for each of us? Konglin said. This is just what I want. Shirdu said. And at this time, Konglin's gaze landed on Fairy Tan Xiong and Jing Kongling again, and he said with a smile, Goddess Tan Xiong, after we take care of the Divine Emperor and Ming Lu, there will only be 11 people left on the stage. At that time, Miss Kongling will have to go down. In this way, you can also enter the top 10. Konglin was a suitor of Fairy Tan Xiong. At this time, he naturally had to seize the opportunity to court her favor. Oh really? Was young Master Kong that confident? Don't be unable to do it, okay? Fairy Tan Xiong narrowed her eyes and smiled. Haha, you can't do it? Other than the heaven's favorites of the big shots, no one can escape from my hands. Konglin smiled and moved suddenly. With a flash of 5-colored light, he pounced toward the Emperor God at a terrifying speed. Konglin's true form was a type of peacock. He had 90% of the bloodline of the 5 elements peacock, and his speed was unparalleled in the world. However, he had encountered an Emperor God. Spatial Intent, the King of Intents, was also skilled in speed. Whoosh! Whoosh! The Emperor God didn't fight with Konglin. Instead, he used Instant Step to avoid Konglin's attack. The two of them, one chasing and the other escaping, were both shockingly fast, constantly flashing on the platform. For a moment, it was difficult to determine the winner. Second level of the spiritual god realm. The Emperor God has also broken through to the second level of the spiritual god realm. Someone exclaimed as he saw the cultivation of the Emperor God. There's finally a decent heaven's favorite in the East Continent. Although he's not as good as the big shots, he's one of the best among the second-grade heaven's favorites. Someone commented. The Emperor God had comprehended the space will and his cultivation had broken through the second level of the spiritual god realm. He was already at the peak of the second-class heaven's favorites. Wu Qingkong might not be his match. Roar! The lion roared and pounced on Lu Ming. The golden claw radiance was like a golden heavenly blade that tore the space apart. Dragon power! With a single thought, the 7 dragon energies in his body instantly exploded. Lu Ming's body glowed with purple light. However, there were no scales on his body. Therefore, the masters of the Wang and Jiang families could not recognize him. The dragon power burst forth, and Lu Ming's strength was even more shocking. At the same time, a 5-colored will spread out as he threw a punch. At this moment, everyone was shocked. This Minglu actually wants to fight against Lion City head-on. He's overestimating himself. That's right. His combat strength is indeed very strong, but there's still a big gap between him and the heaven's favorites. It's not wise to fight him head-on. Many people had thought that Lu Ming would learn from the Emperor God and use all his strength to dodge and stall for time. As long as the Western Desert and Southern Nether, or Yangpadian and Tuoba sure had a winner, he would be able to enter the top 10. He had never expected that Lu Ming would choose to fight against Lion City head-on. Wasn't it courting death to fight against a powerful heaven's favorite head-on? 5-colored will. This person has comprehended 5 types of will. In the stands, the masters of the Wang and Jiang families were shocked. Previously, they had seen Lu Ming comprehend 4 types of concepts. That was the highest number of concepts that they had ever seen someone comprehend. However, they were surprised to see that someone had comprehended 5 concepts. They did not think of Lu Ming as the better option. First, they had clearly seen Lu Ming outside the Talisman Amulet sect. It was impossible for him to be in the Central Continent. Secondly, Lu Ming had only comprehended 4 concepts during the Battle of Providence. At such a high cultivation level, it was impossible for him to continue to comprehend new concepts. It was too difficult. They could only sigh. Central Continent was indeed full of geniuses. There was actually someone who could comprehend 5 intents. Chapter 1124. 1124 Be my mount. Boom! Lu Ming's fist and the lion's golden claws collided heavily. Instantly, the 5-colored light and the golden light burst out, forming a 6-colored light pillar that shot into the sky. A terrifying blast of air spread out in all directions. Bang! Bang! The two figures retreated 100 meters away from each other and stood opposite each other. A draw. This move was a draw. This made many people dumbfounded. This Minglu could actually block Shirdu's move. Although he was forced back, he also forced Shirdu back. Wasn't he too strong? Could it be that Minglu was also a heaven's favorite of the big shots? Everyone's heart twitched. Since when were powerful beings so worthless? Shirdu himself was also very shocked, but this aroused his ferocity even more. Die! Arg! Shirdu roared as the golden flames on his body jumped dozens of meters high. The terrifying heat seemed to be able to melt everything. It twisted the space and even burned through it, revealing a dark space. His aura also became more violent and shocking. In his body, the sun god lion's bloodline started to boil as if it was about to turn into a golden sun. The peak of the second level of the spiritual god realm. Shirdu's cultivation was at the peak of the second level of the spiritual god realm. Minglu were both at the second level of the spiritual god realm. I'll let you understand the difference between us. Shirdu said coldly, looking at Lu Ming with an extremely cold gaze. The cultivation that Lu Ming had just revealed was at the second level of the spiritual god realm. Who said that my cultivation is at the second level of the spiritual god realm? Lu Ming smiled faintly. The next moment, boom! A violent aura burst out from Lu Ming's body and spread in all directions. Third level of the spiritual god realm. At this moment, the cultivation that Lu Ming revealed was at the third level of the spiritual god realm. What? This Minglu's cultivation is at the third level of the spiritual god realm. How is that possible? Whoa, he's too strong. This guy has been hiding his strength all this time. This is too abnormal. Lu Ming's cultivation erupted, causing an uproar in the surroundings. Lu Ming's cultivation had actually reached the terrifying third level of the spiritual god realm. When he tested his bone age earlier, he was clearly not even 25 years old. To rush to the third level of the spiritual god realm before the age of 25 was too shocking and terrifying. Even the sovereigns in the stands were shocked. Saint Emperor, I didn't think that the imperial family would have such a talented genius hidden within. I really admire him. One of the emperors spoke. Xie Qitian's eyes were filled with surprise. There was actually such a heaven's favorite in the law enforcement army, and he had not noticed it before. As for the eighth prince, Xie Zhen, his eyes were filled with disbelief. He had never dreamed that this Ming Lu, who had been demoted to a lowly ant in the law enforcement army, was actually so terrifying. If this person had wanted to kill him before, he would have been dead long ago. In the crowd, Shi Jing and Shi Fang, whose cultivation had been crippled, were pale. Lu Ming's outburst of cultivation shocked the other talents on the platform. Yang Patin, Tuoba Shi, Ming Zi, and the other paragons who were in the middle of a battle felt Lu Ming's powerful aura and their eyes turned grave. As for Lion City himself, he was even more shocked. Third level of the spiritual god realm? How is that possible? Even the lion roared. Lion Capital, I heard that you're ranked 5th among the 5 giants of the central continent. Although you're a little lacking, your looks aren't bad. You're about the same as my little gold. I'll force myself to take you as my mount. Lu Ming stepped forward, his aura was wild. The little gold he was talking about was King Kong, the golden tiger that Lu Ming had taken down in the Battle of Providence. Everyone was shocked. This awesome commander actually wanted to take Liandu as his mount? It was simply whimsical, arrogant, and ignorant. You're courting death. Don't think that I can't do anything to you just because your cultivation has reached the third level of the spiritual god realm. The lion was furious and his lungs were about to explode. He, Lion City, was destined to become an emperor in the future. This big-bearded man actually wanted to take him as a mount. He deserved to die. So what if they were at the third level of the spiritual god realm? It was common for Lion City to fight those of a higher realm. The sun god lion's blood boiled. It was as if the lion had completely transformed into a golden sun, pressing down on Lu Ming. Boom! The true essence of the third level of the spiritual god realm in his body boiled and gushed out like a tsunami. He activated the prison's suppressing heaven technique, and with the support of his intent and dragon power, he blasted toward the golden sun. With an earth-shattering explosion, everyone was shocked to find that the golden sun had been sent flying. However, Lu Ming's body only swayed a little. Kill! Then, Lu Ming shouted and rushed toward Lion City, launching a storm of attacks. The lion roared, shaking the sky and the space around it. Blood Rascal also knew the sound wave technique, but compared to Lion City, he was not even worthy to carry his shoes. Lu Ming punched out with both fists continuously, breaking Shirdiyu's sound wave technique. The force of his punches landed heavily on Shirdiyu's body. Thump! Thump! The Lion City's body was as hard as diamond and it emitted a terrifying heat. However, under Lu Ming's fist, it was still wailing in pain. The crowd gasped. The Lion capital was actually at a disadvantage. I forgot to tell you that I've never been defeated in a battle of the same level. Not to mention that you're one level lower than me. Lu Ming's voice was full of confidence. On the side of the platform, the eyes of Goddess Tan Xiang and Jing Kongling flickered. Why do I feel that this style is very familiar? Fairy Tan Xiang muttered. I also find it familiar. There's a kind of invincible confidence, just like Lu Shaoqing's. The pure spatial spirit said. Lu Shaoqing seems to be very good at disguising himself. Could this person be Lu Shaoqing? Fairy Tan Xiang seemed to have thought of something as she covered her mouth and whispered. Jing Kongling didn't say anything and just looked at the battle. The sun is endless. The lion was suppressed by Lu Ming and felt extremely aggrieved. It roared madly, displaying its terrifying strength to the fullest. It had to be said that the lion capital was indeed very strong. They possessed 90% of the divine sun lion's bloodline, which was equivalent to a human martial artist awakening a 9th-level divine level bloodline. Their battle prowess was extremely terrifying, and killing enemies who were several levels above them was as easy as eating and drinking. If it were an ordinary peak 2nd-level spiritual god realm martial artist or demonic beast, Lu Ming could kill them with a single slap. However, Lu Ming's burst of 3rd-level spiritual god realm vital essence, in addition to the 7 streams of dragon energy and the support of the concept, could only gain the upper hand. It would take some effort to defeat him. Lu Ming was shocked. It was so powerful with only 90% of the divine beast's bloodline. How terrifying would it be if a pure-blooded divine beast came? A 90% bloodline and a pure-blood divine beast were fundamentally different. The difference was huge. According to the ancient legends, there had once been a pure-blooded divine beast in the divine wilderness continent. A natural divine beast was invincible the moment it was born. No one in its generation was its match, and it could overpower its opponents. Even if he was a supreme talent who had awakened a 9th-level divine bloodline, he was still far from being a match for him and would be suppressed. It was said that a pure-blood divine beast would be able to step into the Emperor realm with just a little bit of cultivation. Its talent was simply too strong. However, in the divine wilderness continent, it had been many years since a natural-born pure-blooded divine beast was seen. Chapter 1125. 1125 Chapter 1125 Defeating a Big Shot. What are you shouting for? Fight. Lu Ming raised his fist and punched at Shirdu continuously. Shirdu roared in anger and tried his best, but it was useless. He was defeated by Lu Ming's fist and landed heavily on his body. The lion's huge body shook like a drum, and its soft golden fur was beaten into a mess. In the end, it was broken and flew on the platform, making the platform golden. I can't waste it. Lu Ming waved his sleeve and kept the golden fur that had fallen from Shirdiyu's body. This was an incredible treasure. If it was woven into a robe, it would have a strong defensive ability and would be impervious to fire and water. Some people in the crowd were envious. This golden fur was a rare treasure. Roar! Shirdu looked up at the sky in shame and anger, wishing he could bite Lu Ming to death. Unfortunately, he could not do it and was even forced to retreat by Lu Ming. In the end, Lu Ming simply rode on the lion capital and swung his fists wildly. The lion capital roared in anger and sorrow. It even rolled on the ground, but it was useless. It could not shake off Lu Ming. Every punch of Lu Ming's was terrifyingly powerful and suppressed everything. It kept smashing on the lion capital's body. With every punch, the lion capital felt that its bones were about to break and blood kept flowing out of its mouth. A demonic beast's body was extremely strong, especially a demonic beast like him who had 90% of the divine beast's bloodline. His body was even stronger. However, he still could not withstand Lu Ming's iron fist. Bang! In the end, the lion fell heavily to the ground, gasping for breath. Even the lion was defeated. This thought flashed through everyone's mind. Before this battle, no one would have thought that the Lion City would be defeated by this strange commander of the law enforcement army. This was like a fantasy story, but it was the truth. Although the Lion Capital was ranked last among the 5 giants of the central continent, no one dared to underestimate its strength. Those second-grade heavens favorites would only be crushed by the Lion Capital. But now, he was no match for the commander of the law enforcement army. How is it? Are you convinced now? Be my mount. Lu Ming stepped on the lion capital and looked down at him. Roar! The lion howled madly and soared into the sky, rushing out of the platform. Even if he were to lose, he would drag Lu Ming down with him. Nest, come at me. Forget it, I'll spare you this time. Lu Ming's figure moved and his body flew backward. He kicked Shirdu's buttocks and sent him flying far away, landing outside the platform. Lion City, defeated. Shirdu let out a long roar as if he wanted to vent the depression in his heart. After a dozen roars, he transformed into his human form and sat on the seat of the Lion Tiger Hall with an extremely gloomy expression. He had actually been eliminated before he could make it into the top 10. The main reason was that he had to deal with Lu Ming, which led to him being eliminated early. At this moment, there were only Tulavir people left on the platform. Kong Lin was still chasing after Emperor God, but the Emperor God used the space mentality and dodged with all his might instead of fighting Kong Lin. With the Emperor God's cultivation and the mystery of space mentality, it was still difficult for Kong Lin to catch up with the Emperor God even though he was very fast. Buzz! At this moment, Kong Lin stopped. He did not continue to pursue the Emperor God. Instead, he looked at Lu Ming with a grave expression. It was completely beyond his expectations that Shirdu did not manage to take down Lu Ming and was instead defeated by him. At this moment, the situation was in a stalemate again. Goddess Tan Xiang and Jing Kongling stood on the side of the platform together. Long Chen had not moved since the battle began. Kong Lin could not catch up with the Emperor God and he was afraid of Lu Ming. He was also a suitor of the Sandalwood Fairy. Naturally, he would not attack the Sandalwood Fairy and the Jingkongaling. As for the Emperor God, it was obvious that he intended to use the advantage of the space will to delay as much as possible and enter the top 10 when the others were defeated. Therefore, he would not launch an attack first. Yang Padian and Tuoba Ashur were still engaged in an intense battle. The battle between the Western Desert and the Southern Nether was even more intense. At this point in the battle, the difference in strength had already been revealed. The unscrupulous monk was fighting the young man covered in black flames. At this time, the young man in black flames had transformed into his true form. He was also a demonic beast. He looked almost the same as the legendary three-headed hellhound. The youth in black flames had 90% of the three-headed hellhound's bloodline and was extremely powerful. Each of the 3 heads could launch a different attack. Black flames filled the air, but they were not hot at all. Instead, they gave off an extremely cold feeling. It was as if this flame could freeze the soul. This was the infernal flames. The 3-headed hellhound was strong, but the unscrupulous monk was even stronger. The monk was solemn, and his body was covered in golden light. A golden Buddha floated above his head, and the Buddha's light suppressed the 3-headed hellhound. The 3-headed hellhound was completely suppressed by the golden Buddhist light. Phenomena appeared all around it, and it was in an extremely sorry state. On the other side, The battle between Dark Child and the female Bodhisattva was also extremely intense. However, the Dark Child was indeed very powerful. He was the strongest in the southern underworld's generation, even stronger than the Cerberus. His dark chi soared to the sky and suppressed the female Bodhisattva. However, the Buddhist martial techniques were extremely profound and could attack and defend. The female Bodhisattva performed the blood fusion and transformed into a true female Buddha. The Buddha light spread out and formed many Buddha walls. Although she was at a disadvantage, she could still barely resist. They're so powerful. Each of them is above Lion City and is at the third level of the spiritual god realm. Lu Ming swept his gaze across the crowd and could tell their cultivation. Like Yang Patin and Tuobashir, the four great prodigies of the Western Desert and the Southern Underworld were all at the third level of the spiritual god realm. Each of their combat strength was above that of Lion City. Stinky dog lose. The unscrupulous monk became more and more courageous as the battle progressed. His combat strength was unfathomable, and he completely suppressed the three-headed hellhound. The three-headed hellhound tried its best to block while scanning the entire area with its spiritual sense. I can't go on like this. There are still Tulavir people left on the field. If this continues, I'll be defeated by this bald monk and won't even be able to enter the top 10. Those two women are weak. I'll take care of them first. Even if I'm defeated, I can still enter the top 10. The three-headed hellhound's mind raced as it made a decision. Then he used all his strength to block the monk's attack. His body flashed and he turned into a black light, rushing toward Goddess Tan Xiang and Jing Kongling. It was as fast as lightning and arrived in an instant. Block! Fairy Tan Xiang's reaction was extremely fast. With a light step, dense runes appeared on the ground, forming a few formations. A few shields appeared in front of her. At the same time, the pure space spirit moved as well. A river appeared, and within the river, ancient trees grew. The branches stretched out and blocked the way. Boom! Boom! With a violent boom, the inferno spread and burned the shield and the ancient trees. However, after this block, the follow-up moves of Goddess Tan Xiang and the pure spatial spirit also exploded out. Fairy Tan Xiang's body glowed as she activated the killing formation she had carved. At the same time, she waved her hand, and 36 pills flew out, turning into 36 divine weapons. Together with the pure spatial spirit's attack, they attacked the three-headed hellhound. Chapter 1126. 1126. He is Lu Shaoqing. The two peerless beauties had a tacit understanding and made people's eyes light up. There was no doubt that even among the second-grade heaven's favorites, Goddess Tan Xiang and Jing Kongling were considered top-notch. However, their opponents were powerful beings. With a loud explosion, their attacks were scattered by the three-headed hellhound's attacks. Get down! The Cerberus shouted coldly as it swiped down with its claws, causing the faces of both Goddess Tan Xiang and Jing Kongling to change. Could it be that we're going to fail? The two of them had the same thought, and they felt a little unwilling. There were still Tulavir people left. They just needed to hold on a little longer and they might be able to enter the top 10. Unfortunately, he could only reach this far. The two of them sighed and decided to leave the platform and admit defeat. At this moment, a burly figure suddenly appeared in front of them. He threw out a punch and collided with the three-headed hellhound's claw, blocking it. It's him! The eyes of the two girls lit up. The person who blocked their way was Lu Ming. Back in the ancient herb garden, Goddess Tan Xiang and Jing Kongling had helped him once to prevent him from falling into Cold Blood Hall's trap. Now that he saw the two women in danger, he naturally would not sit by and do nothing. It's you. If you want to be the hero and save the beauty, then I'll send you down. The three-headed hellhound roared loudly and the terrifying hellfire burst forth, causing Lu Ming's spiritual god to tremble slightly as if his soul was about to be frozen. What a powerful hell flame! Lu Ming was shocked, but he laughed out loud. Ha! You're even more powerful than that lion. I originally wanted to take that lion as my mount, but he wouldn't agree to it no matter what. Although you're a little ugly, you're barely qualified to be my mount. As he laughed, his true yuan exploded and he threw a few punches forward, exchanging a few blows with the Cerberus. Big Beard, why did you snatch my prey? The heartless monk appeared not far away and said with a smile. Monk, I'll finish off your prey for you. Lu Ming said. Ah, that's good. I don't have to do it. The monk chuckled and turned his eyes to Dark Child. Sister Moonless, how about I help you? The unscrupulous monk's large sleeves fluttered as he arrived at the place where the Dark Child and the female Bodhisattva were fighting. The name of the female Bodhisattva was Moonless. Dark Child looked at the unscrupulous monk with some fear. Heartless, go do what you need to do, I don't need your help. Moonless' face was a bit cold, and it seemed that her relationship with the unscrupulous monk was very bad. Not far away, Lu Ming almost fell down. This unscrupulous monk's name was actually unscrupulous. It was too appropriate. I have rice hair, the falling flowers are interested, but the flowing water is heartless. Sister Moonless doesn't need my help, then forget it. The unscrupulous monk muttered. Then, his eyes started to look around again. The onlookers were all speechless. Was this really a holy monk from the Western Desert? Why are you so unreliable? Even some of the sovereigns in the stands had strange expressions. The Buddha of Western Desert had a solemn expression and a smile on his face. His eyes were closed, as if he had not seen anything. Boom! At that moment, Lu Ming and the three-headed hellhound were already engaged in an intense battle. The three-headed hellhound was very strong. It had already reached the third level of the spiritual god realm and its combat strength was stronger than even Shirdyu's. At this moment, the three-headed hellhound had unleashed its full power, causing its divine beast bloodline to boil. Lu Ming did not unleash his bloodline and was at a slight disadvantage for the time being. It seems like it's impossible to obtain third place without using my bloodline today. At this thought, a drop of blood appeared on top of Lu Ming's head. Borrowing power. Who? A wisp of energy from the third blood meridian gushed into Lu Ming's body. His aura rose sharply, his hair turned blood red in an instant, and his body emitted a blood-red light. Kill! Lu Ming's third blood meridian power surged in and a terrifying killing intent erupted from his body. He struck out with his palm, aiming for one of the three-headed hellhound's heads. The Cerberus's head spewed out terrifying attacks, but they were dispersed by Lu Ming's palm. His palm landed heavily on one of the Cerberus' heads. With a loud bang, the Cerberus cried out in pain and retreated rapidly. Its head was almost shattered by Lu Ming's chop. A part of its forehead had caved in and blood was flowing out. Lu Shaoqing. He's Lu Shaoqing. At this time, a few extremely shocked cries sounded out from the crowd. Shui Luo Zi, Wu Qingkong, and a few others who had seen Lu Ming in the secret realm of the Saint Mansion all exclaimed in disbelief. What? He's Lu Shaoqing? Ming Lu is Lu Shaoqing. This awesome commander is Lu Shaoqing? Cries of alarm rang out. Now, Lu Shaoqing's name had already shaken the world. News of Lu Shaoqing killing the top talents of the last generation in the secret realm of the Saint Mansion of the Tianxia Academy, killing the top talents of the Cold Blood Hall and the Tianwu Sword Sect, and fighting with Yang Podin and the others had long spread throughout the central continent. Everyone had long regarded Lu Shaoqing as a big shot. They had thought that since Lu Shaoqing had not come to the Holy City, could this overpowered commander with a full beard be Lu Shaoqing? He's Lu Shaoqing. I can't be wrong about this cultivation technique. Wu Qingkong and Shui Luo Zi spoke with great certainty. He is indeed Lu Shaoqing. Fairy Tan Xiang and Jing Kongling's eyes flickered as they muttered to themselves ears. Haha, it's really uncomfortable to have this broken beard stuck on my face. At this moment, Lu Ming laughed out loud. He grabbed the fake beard on his face and threw it away. By doing so, he would be acknowledging his identity as Lu Shaoqing. The crowd was shocked. Ming Lu was indeed Lu Shaoqing, but how did he get into the law enforcement army? What a brilliant aura-changing technique. Even we were fooled. An emperor said. None of the emperors present had noticed this earlier. Roar! The three-headed hellhound roared loudly. All three heads opened their mouths and launched a terrifying attack. One head spewed out black liquid, one head spewed out black flames, and the last head spewed out black lightning. Each of these attacks was extremely terrifying and could kill a second-grade heaven's favorite. Lu Ming clenched his fist in the air. His third blood meridian squirmed and transformed into a blood-red spear that Lu Ming held. Lu Ming cast the 5 killing moves and swung his spear 3 times in a row. Boom, boom, boom. 3 blood-red spear shadows shattered the void and dispersed the three-headed hellhound's attack. Then, the long spear turned into a blood-red lightning, piercing through the layers of space, and stabbed towards one of the heads. That head was the one that was injured by Lu Ming earlier. The spear directly pierced through the hole in the ground, penetrating the Cerberus's head. Roar! The other 2 heads of the three-headed hellhound let out a frenzied roar and launched a terrifying attack at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's left palm struck out continuously, activating the prison-suppressing heavenly art to counter the Cerberus attacks. Seizing the opportunity, the three-headed hellhound retreated rapidly. The head that Lu Ming had pierced through was shrouded in black mist. Chapter 1127. 1127 Chapter 1127 Dragon Star's Power. The three-headed hellhound's life force was extremely tenacious. It had 3 heads. Unless all 3 heads were chopped off or one head was pierced, it would only be heavily injured but not dead. In the future, it would grow 3 more heads. At this moment, the three-headed hellhound looked at Lu Ming in shock. Kill! Lu Ming bellowed, his killing intent surging like a tide. His blood-red hair fluttered in the wind, and even his eyes were bloodshot. He strode towards the three-headed hellhound. Although the slaughter intent in the third bloodline was only borrowed and couldn't be combined with his own 5 intents, it could still work together to make it stronger. The blood-red spear danced, forming a blood-red storm of slaughter. The three-headed hellhound did its best to fight Lu Ming. However, after a few moves, its second head was pierced by Lu Ming's spear and it was injured even more severely. In the end, the Cerberus had no choice but to leave the platform and admit defeat. The three-headed hellhound had lost. This commander, No, Lu Shaoqing, had defeated the Lion Capital and the Cerberus, 2 powerful heaven's favorites. This had shocked everyone. At this time, the battle between Darkchild and Moonless had also entered the final stage. Although Moonless was strong, compared to Darkchild, she was still 1 step behind. From the beginning, she was at a slight disadvantage. To the end, she was completely suppressed. After Lu Ming defeated the Cerberus, she had no choice but to admit defeat and leave the platform. With the withdrawal of Moonless, the top 10 was born. They were Long Chen Yang Panin, Tuobashir, the Heartless Monk, Ming Zi Kong Lin, the Divine Emperor, the Sandalwood Fairy, Jing Kongling and Lu Ming. Entering the top 10 meant that one could enter the ancient Sage Emperor's palace and study the insights of the past Sage Emperors, laying down a foundation for one's journey to the Emperor's realm. At this moment, apart from Yang Padian and Tuobashir, the others didn't make a move and just watched each other. Brother Lu, thank you for your help. Fairy Tan Xiang and Jing Kongling bowed to Lu Ming. The 2 fairies are too polite. Lu Ming grinned and said forthrightly, Brother Lu, it's all up to you now. Sister Kongling and I are already very lucky to be able to enter the top 10. Goddess Tan Xiang said in a sweet voice. Then she and Jing Kongling floated back and left the platform. The 2 of them admitted defeat just like that. No one was surprised. It was all within their expectations. It was already extremely lucky for Goddess Tan Xiang and Jing Kongling to be able to enter the top 10. With their true strength, it would be very difficult for them to enter the top 10. It was already enough for him to enter the top 10 and enter the ancient hall. Retreating now was the wisest choice. Only 8 people remained on the platform. Boom! With a violent boom, Yang Patian and Tuobashir exchanged a blow and both retreated. They stood in 2 different directions and did not continue fighting. The two of them had already exchanged hundreds of moves, and there was still no clear winner. Yang Padian, I heard that you're ranked third among the top 5 young warriors of the Central Continent. Xian Yanjuan is ranked second, and Long Chen is ranked first. Are they really stronger than you? Said Tuobashir, his voice booming like a bell. Why don't you try it? Yang Padian said. You don't have to provoke me. But I really want to try. Tuobashir laughed before turning to look at Long Chen. Everyone was shocked. Was Tuobashir going to make a move on Long Chen? Everyone's heart was filled with anticipation. Long Chen had not made a move just now. In fact, Long Chen had not made a move since the Battle of Providence. Everyone was curious about how far Long Chen had progressed and how strong he was. Would they be surpassed by the other heaven's favorites? A look of anticipation flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. Long Chen gave him a strong sense of pressure. He also wanted to know how strong Long Chen was. Bang! Tuobashir's steps caused the platform to buzz as he walked toward Long Chen. His aura was extremely powerful, and the mace in his hand buzzed along with Tuobashir's emotions. His muscles slowly bulged as if they were filled with infinite strength. In comparison, Long Chen was very ordinary. His temperament and appearance were ordinary, just like an ordinary youth in the crowd. On the platform, everyone backed away and looked at Long Chen and Tuobashir. Long Chen, everyone says that you are the number 1 in the Central Continent, or even the Divine Wilderness Continent. I would like to give it a try. Tuobashir stood in front of Long Chen and said in a low voice. His eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Northern Plains was a warlike place, and Tuobashir was even more so. Otherwise, he wouldn't have found Yang Padian and fought him as soon as he arrived in the Central Continent. Moreover, because he had not defeated Yang Padian, he had repeatedly fought with Yang Padian. From this, it could be seen how warlike he was. To him, there was no one who could match him in Northern Plains. He had never lost in the younger generation. He needed stronger experts to give him pressure. Thus, he went to find Long Chen. You can make your move. Long Chen spoke for the first time. His tone was calm, without any arrogance or arrogance. However, Lu Ming could hear a kind of qi from it. It was an invincible and undefeatable qi. This was the kind of qi that could only be obtained when one was extremely confident in themselves ears. Receive my attack. Tuobashir let out a long roar and his already burly body became even more burly. A terrifying beast's roar came out of his body as the mace in his hand shone with a brilliant light. Bang! Tuobashir took a step forward and charged at Long Chen, smashing his mace down with the force of 10,000 caddies. Facing Long Chen, Tuobashir did not dare to be careless. He used all his strength. Everyone's expression turned grave. Tuobashir's move was too terrifying, and no one could ignore it. However, Long Chen's expression was still calm. When Tuobashir's mace was about to hit him, a terrifying aura spread out from his body. His arms swelled rapidly and his muscles bulged. It was twice as thick as usual. Boom! Long Chen threw out a punch. The punch pierced through the space, creating a long dark tunnel. The entire area shook. On the platform, Lu Ming and the others could feel a powerful force spreading toward them. They had to channel their cultivation to resist it. Thump! Long Chen's fist collided heavily with Tuobashir's mace, creating a terrifying boom. It was like a thunderclap in the sky. This was a collision of power. Then, everyone saw a figure retreating rapidly and continuously like a huge cannonball, until he was out of the platform. It was Tuobashir. He was sent flying out of the platform by Long Chen's punch. His face was pale and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. CSI! Gasps of shock could be heard. Tuobashir had been defeated by Long Chen with a single punch. Tuobashir's strength could be seen from his battle with Yang Padian just now. His strength was absolutely terrifying, and his strength was shocking. He suppressed the world, and his combat strength was no weaker than Yang Potion's. But now, he was sent flying by Long Chen's punch and spat out a mouthful of blood. This kind of scene was seriously too shocking. Central Continent's people were still fine, but Northern Plains, Southern Nether, Western Desert, and Eastern Barrens people were even more shocked when they saw this. He was too strong. Chapter 1128. 1128 The Last Five. On the platform, Yang Patian and Kong Lin's eyes were extremely solemn. The eyes of Dark Child, the unscrupulous monk, and the divine emperor were filled with shock. My hair is as white as rice, my Buddha. Motherfucking mercy. What a pervert. The unscrupulous monk chanted a nondescript Buddhist name. What a terrifying power. Lu Ming's eyes were solemn. Lu Ming had a vague feeling that Long Chen's bloodline was not to be underestimated. It was definitely an extremely terrifying bloodline. After defeating Toba Shur, Long Chen's arm returned to its original state and he stood there calmly. He was very ordinary, but no one dared to look down on him. Not even emperors. As long as such a genius did not die, he would definitely become an emperor in the future. He might even rise to a higher level and dominate the divine wilderness. Such a genius was rare even in ancient times. Now, there were only 7 people left on the platform. The 7 of them looked at each other. Yang Patian, let's fight. A 5-colored light flashed, and Kong Lin appeared in front of Yang Patian. Of the 5 giants of the Central Continent, Yang Patian was ranked 3rd, and Kong Lin was ranked 4th. In the Battle of Providence, Kong Lin lost to Yang Patian by a slight disadvantage. Today, he was going to win it back and wash away the shame. Then I'll defeat you again. Yang Patian was very confident. He pointed his halberd at Kong Lin, and the void trembled. While Kong Lin's body bloomed with 5-colored light. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth 5 elements. The 5 elements peacock was born with the ability to control the 5 elements and was extremely powerful. Of course, this kind of control was different from a warrior who had comprehended 5 different concepts at the same time. This was because the 5 elements of the 5 elements peacock were separated, unlike Lu Ming who had already fused all 5. The 5 elements peacock was only blessed by the heavens in terms of controlling the 5 elements, while Kong Lin had 90% of the 5 elements peacock's bloodline, so he naturally also inherited the talent to control the 5 elements. Buzz. Buzz. The 2 of them moved at the same time, charging at each other and engaging in a great battle. Bang. Bang. At this moment, Lu Ming stepped forward and walked towards one of them. Emperor God. Lu Ming walked toward the Emperor God. The Emperor God stared at Lu Ming with a solemn look. You should go down. Lu Ming said indifferently. Have I met you before? The Emperor God said as he stared at Lu Ming. He felt that his temperament was very similar to Lu Ming's. Oh really? Is there anyone in this world who is as invincible as me? Lu Ming grinned. His blood-red hair flew in the air as his endless killing intent swept toward the Emperor God. Although your combat strength is strong, you can't do anything to me as I'm focused on dodging. The Emperor God said. He was confident in his space will. Is that so? Lu Ming sneered. The blood-red long spear was thrust out like a blood-red lightning. The space around the Emperor God's body rippled like water. He moved and disappeared from his original spot, reappearing in another place 100 meters away. The space mentality is indeed amazing, but in my eyes, it's nothing. Lu Ming took a step forward and formed a seal with his hands. A door of light appeared, emitting a blinding light that pressed down on the Emperor God. The Emperor God's expression changed drastically because he suddenly felt like he had fallen into a quagmire and couldn't move. Not only him, even the space was sealed. This is the 9 seals of the Gate of God. An emperor suddenly stood up and exclaimed in shock. It's the 9 seals of the Gate of God, the ultimate martial art of the sky-sealing divine warrior. I didn't expect Lu Shaoqing to be in control of it. Another old emperor said. This ultimate technique was once famous in the world more than 100,000 years ago. It was the ultimate technique of an emperor. However, with the passing of that emperor, this ultimate technique also disappeared in the world. No one expected it to appear again today. The other onlookers were shocked. So this was an emperor technique. Spatial travel. The emperor god roared and exerted all his strength. The space around him trembled rapidly as he tried to break free from Lu Ming's seal. Then one more fan. Lu Ming moved his hand and another gate of God appeared. It pressed down. This time, the emperor god's body could not move at all. During this period of time, Lu Ming did not stop cultivating the 9 seals of the divine gate. After several months of hard work, Lu Ming could already form 2 of the 9 seals of the divine gate, and the sealing power had increased greatly. Whoosh! The blood-red spear turned into a ray of light and pierced through the void, coming out of the emperor god's chest. Bang! With a shake of the spear, the emperor god's body was sent flying far away. He flew out of the platform and spat out a mouthful of blood. You can't even withstand a single blow. I won't kill you today for the sake of the sage emperor, but I'll definitely kill you when I meet you in the future. Lu Ming said coldly. If it were not for the rule that no one was allowed to kill their opponent, he would have killed the emperor god just now instead of just injuring him. However, Lu Ming did not care about the emperor god anymore. He would have plenty of chances to kill him in the future. The emperor god kept vomiting blood and his face was pale. He barely managed to float in the air, staring at Lu Ming and roaring, "We must have met before. Who are you?" Lu Ming did not spare him another glance. He turned around and looked at the battle between Yang Padian and Kong Lin. Yang Potion's space intent was much stronger than an emperor god's, and he had also mastered other intents. In the end, a purple-gold halberd floated above his head. The 9 golden chakras were extremely bright. Divine level 9th rank bloodline. The geniuses of the big shots had all awakened divine level rank 9 bloodlines. Is this the legendary halberd of the void? Someone exclaimed. Yang Potion's bloodline was the legendary supreme divine weapon, the halberd of the void. It was a halberd that could shatter the void and cut through space. Yang Padian performed the bloodline fusion and transformed into the halberd of the void, which made his combat strength even more terrifying. Kong Lin also turned into a 5-colored peacock, but unfortunately, he was still no match for Yang Padian. After fighting for dozens of moves, Kong Lin was no match for Yang Padian and kept retreating, completely suppressed. In the end, Kong Lin gave a long hiss and withdrew from the platform. Kong Lin was defeated. Now, on the platform, there were only 5 people left. Long Chen Ming Zi, the Heartless Monk, Yang Padian, and Lu Ming. Each one of them was extremely powerful with unparalleled combat strength. The battle had also reached its most critical moment. As long as 2 more people were defeated, the top 3 would be decided. Among these 5, who do you think is stronger and who is weaker? The crowd began to discuss. Long Chen is, without a doubt, the strongest. He defeated Tuobashir, who wasn't any weaker than Yang Padian, with a single punch. His combat strength is unfathomable. As for the other 4, it's hard to say. I think that the unscrupulous monk, Dark Child, and Lu Shaoqing are about the same. As for Yang Padian, he's slightly weaker. Not necessarily. Yang Padian is very strong. He might not be weaker than the other 3. I don't think they'll be weak either. The next battle will be the peak battle. Everyone expressed their opinions one by one. I'm not a dog. Giver, how about we exchange a few moves? The unscrupulous monk chanted the name of Buddha, and his white kasaya fluttered as he flew towards Yang Padian, giving off a kind of otherworldly feeling. That's exactly what I want. Monk, you were the one who gave me a fake token in the secret realm of the Saint Mansion. I'll make you pay for this. Yang Padian coldly stared at the unscrupulous monk. Chapter 1129. 1129 Chapter 1129 Great Battle against Dark Child. I have no hair. You have misunderstood me. You have misunderstood me too. Someone must have framed me. I am a monk. I am merciful and will save all living beings. Who is the one who slandered this little monk? Tell me, I'm going to kill him with one palm. The unscrupulous monk put his palms together and looked solemn. The first part of his sentence was quite normal, but the last part made people look at each other in dismay. Outside the platform, the moonless female bodhisattva put her hands together, the veins on her face twitching. Yang Potion's lips also trembled as he said, "No need to say anything more. Let me try Master's means." Yang Potin transformed into the halberd of the void and started fighting the monk without any hesitation. Without a doubt, the unscrupulous monk's bloodline was also at the 9th level of the divine level. He was a golden Buddha with a solemn expression and a benevolent face. He was able to deliver all living beings from suffering and was emitting a boundless Buddhist light. The crowd was speechless. How could such a weirdo like this monk awaken such a supreme Buddhist bloodline? The two of them fought and occupied half of the platform. "Lu Shaoqing, let's fight." A black light flashed and Dark Child appeared in front of Lu Ming. "Fight." There was no need to say more. Lu Ming spat out a single word, his fighting spirit soaring. As long as he defeated Dark Child, the unscrupulous monk and Yang Padian would determine the winner and Lu Ming would be able to enter the top 3. His goal was to enter the top 3, and he had to enter the top 3. Endless black nether energy burst out from Dark Child's body. Ghostly wails came out from within, which was extremely horrifying. A blade appeared in his hand. It was a black scimitar with evil ghosts emerging on it as if they were about to crawl out. Buzz! Dark Child rushed toward Lu Ming, his scimitar slashing down. Ghostly wails and wolf howls filled the air with a sinister aura. "Kill!" Lu Ming shouted. His killing intent surged like a tide. The blood-red spear turned back into a drop of blood and floated above Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming used the prison-suppressing heaven technique and struck out with his palm, clashing with Dark Child's saber light. Bang! 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 The sounds of concentrated collisions rang out, and the two exchanged more than a dozen moves in an instant. So cold, what a strange attack! Lu Ming felt a chill all over his body. Not only that, but even the spiritual god felt a chill. Dark Child's attack could not only damage the physical body but also affect the spiritual god. The 5-colored intent realm curled around him, forming a battle suit that covered his entire body. His true essence flowed continuously, blocking Dark Child's strange attack. At the same time, he struck out with his palms. Each palm strike had a terrifying power. With the power of 7 dragons and the power of the 3rd bloodline, he was extremely powerful. However, Dark Child was indeed terrifying. Even among the young tyrants, he was a top existence. He had awakened a 9th-level divine bloodline, and the power enhanced by the bloodline itself was also very terrifying. The bloodline's secret skills and bloodline martial techniques that were comprehended from the bloodline were extremely powerful. The power of a divine level rank 9 bloodline far exceeded the power of 7 dragon powers. Moreover, Dark Child's intent realm was very terrifying. There were several types. Although there were not as many types as Lu Ming's, its level was higher and its power was not much weaker than Lu Ming's. It could be said that Heaven's favorites who had reached the level of the top young warriors were very strong in all aspects. The highest level of Lu Ming's blood meridian was only at divine level 7. The 3rd bloodline, on the other hand, had endless power, but Lu Ming did not dare to borrow too much. The more he borrowed, the stronger the killing intent would be. Lu Ming would then be controlled by the endless killing intent. Once he lost control of himself, he would be dominated by the killing and become a walking corpse, a puppet that only knew how to kill. Of course, with the improvement of Lu Ming's cultivation, he had better control over himself and the power he could borrow was also stronger. Now, the power he could borrow had increased a lot compared to when he was at the 1st level of the spiritual god realm. In the blink of an eye, the two of them exchanged dozens of moves. The 9 seals of the Gate of God. Lu Ming formed a seal and 2 gates of God appeared, suppressing Dark Child. Nether Prison's Gate. A black door appeared in front of Dark Child. The door glowed and expanded rapidly, blocking the sealing door. Death God appear. Then, a black figure appeared above Dark Child's head. The figure was covered in a black cloak and his appearance couldn't be seen clearly. Only 2 red flames were dancing and burning in his eyes. The figure held a black sickle in his hand, with black fire dancing around it. The god of death, the legendary god of death. This was the Dark Child's bloodline. Without a doubt, it was also a level 9 divine level. Tullavir Capital Heaven Battle Formation. Dark Child transformed into the Grim Reaper and spoke in a cold and unpleasant voice. The Grim Reaper moved and turned into 12 figures, charging toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming cast the Gate of Sealing again, but he could only seal 2. The other masters continued to attack Lu Ming. Boom, boom, boom. Lu Ming continued to punch and activate the prison-suppressing heavenly art to strengthen its power as he fought the 10 death gods. 10 consecutive punches landed on the 10 Grim Reaper sickles, forcing the 10 Grim Reapers to retreat. However, Lu Ming's face was pale. What a strange attack, what a terrifying power. Lu Ming's eyes were solemn. The death god's physical attack was not very strong, but it had a strange power that could penetrate the body and attack the spiritual god. In other words, it was attacking the soul of the spiritual god. Dark Child's attack could penetrate directly into the soul, obliterating the soul of others, killing people invisibly. If not for the fact that Lu Ming had consumed the soul-refining fruit and a large number of soul-refining pills, which made his spiritual god extremely condensed and stronger than others, he might not have been able to withstand the attack. Even so, Lu Ming's spiritual god was still trembling and his soul was in excruciating pain. Kill! The Dark Child attacked again. At that moment, the sealing door lost its effect. A total of 12 dark gods charged at Lu Ming. Every one of them seemed real. Lu Ming controlled 5 types of concepts and formed a 5-colored battle suit on the spiritual god. Then he fought the death god. It was slightly better with the 5-colored battle suit protecting the spiritual god, but the spiritual god was still being attacked and was constantly shaking. If this continued, the spiritual god would definitely suffer unimaginable injuries. The spiritual god was the foundation of a martial artist. It was where one's essence, chi, and spirit were. If it was severely injured, it would have a huge impact on one's future cultivation. It seems like Lu Shaoqing is going to lose. He's no match for Dark Child. It's said that Dark Child's bloodline Grim Reaper can directly attack one's soul and kill without a trace. It's strange, powerful, and impossible to defend against. By the way, Lu Shaoqing's bloodline is so special. It doesn't have any chakra. I've noticed that too. It's indeed strange. However, there are all kinds of strange things in the world. Perhaps he has cultivated some secret skill to cover his chakra. The crowd discussed as they looked at the platform. At this moment, the battle between Lu Ming and Dark Child seemed to be a draw. However, those who knew Dark Child knew that in the long run, Lu Ming would definitely be at a disadvantage and would not be able to win. On the other side, the heartless monk had already gained the upper hand in the battle between Yang Padian and the monk. I must win this battle, no matter the price. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with determination. He couldn't lose this battle. He had to use this opportunity to take Xian Yanqing away. He had to win, even if he had to reveal his true identity. Chapter 1130. 1130 Lu Ming, it was Lu Ming. Lu Shaoqing be defeated. The Reaper's harvest. A cold and unpleasant voice was heard. The Grim Reaper's sides in the hands of the Tullavir Grim Reapers drew a mysterious and strange arc, slashing toward Lu Ming. Tullavir Death God's sides were placed in all directions. Dark Child, you are the one who is defeated today. Lu Ming let out a long howl. Roar! The next moment, a deafening dragon's roar was heard. 9 dragons appeared above Lu Ming's head, and a vast dragon's might filled the air. Lu Ming turned into a ray of light and entered the 9 dragons. 9 dragons trampling the heavens. Boom! Boom! The 9 dragons' 9 claws stepped forward 7 times in a row, each step stronger than the last. The vast power directly forced the 12 death gods back. 9 dragons. Lu Ming. It's Lu Ming. He's Lu Ming. At this moment, a few shouts of disbelief were heard. The Emperor God, the masters of the Wang family, and the Jiang family shouted in unison. Their eyes widened in disbelief. They were all too familiar with the bloodline of the 9 dragons. Once the bloodline of the 9 dragons appeared, there was only one person, and that was Lu Ming. How is that possible? How can Lu Ming be here? The patriarch of the Wang clan murmured, still in disbelief. Before we arrived at the central continent, we clearly saw Lu Ming at the Talisman Amulet sect. Could it be that Lu Ming also took the teleportation formation and came to the central continent? But how is that possible? Didn't the Talisman Amulet sect not have any contact with the central continent's overlord forces? The master of the Jiang family also muttered to himself. Even though they did not believe it, the 9 dragon bloodline in front of them told them that the person in front of them was Lu Ming. There was no mistake. Lu Ming, that's him. No wonder I feel that this person's aura is so familiar. It's as if we've met before. The Emperor God growled. His eyes were cold and murderous. He found it hard to accept that this person was Lu Ming. The one who had defeated him so easily was Lu Ming. At first, he was full of confidence. His spatial will had reached level for a long time ago and was becoming more and more terrifying. His cultivation had also broken through to the spiritual god realm. He was completely confident that he could easily defeat Lu Ming when he faced him again and avenge the humiliation he had suffered in the Battle of Providence. However, the reality was cruel. Lu Ming had become more powerful and had far surpassed him. He could defeat him easily. The current Lu Ming was like a huge mountain in front of him. At the scene, there was another person who was equally shocked. That person was Xie Zhen. Lu Ming? Lu Shaoqing is Lu Ming? He roared in disbelief, and a terrifying killing intent burst out from his eyes. As he looked at the bloodline of the 9 dragons in front of him, the scenes of his past in 9 dragons appeared in his mind. What? Lu Ming? What Lu Ming? I heard that the number 1 genius of the Eastern Baron territory is called Lu Ming. Could it be him? No way? Is he a heaven's favorite from the East Baron? The surrounding people were in an uproar. They discussed animatedly and found it unbelievable. Just how many identities did he have? In the beginning, he was the commander of the ancient Saint Dynasty's Royal Law Enforcement Army. Then, people recognized him as the famous Lu Shaoqing. Now, he was Lu Ming. Many people were confused. I don't care who you are. Kill. The Tulavir death gods roared and charged at Lu Ming again. Roar! The 9 dragons roared and a terrifying devouring power burst out of their mouths, enveloping the Tulavir death gods. Borrowing power. With a thought, a trace of blood-red power from the 3rd bloodline flowed into the 9 dragons' bodies, causing a layer of blood-red fluorescence to appear on the bodies of the 9 dragons. Boom! Boom! The 9 dragon steps were aimed at one of the Grim Reapers. With 7 steps, the Grim Reapers exploded. The divine dragon wagged its tail and unleashed the might of the prison, suppressing heavenly art. The other death god was also crushed. The 9 dragons slithered up and pounced toward the other 2 Grim Reapers. Enveloped by the devouring power of the 9 dragons, Darkchild felt his blood essence, vital essence, and bloodline power all become unstable. His strength was greatly affected. On the other hand, Lu Ming had used all his strength and performed the blood meridian fusion. He was stronger than before. The situation was reversed and Lu Ming had the upper hand. However, Darkchild was not willing to lose just like that. He did his best to fight Lu Ming. However, after a few moves, another death god was defeated, and as time passed, more and more death gods were defeated. After dozens of moves, only the Grim Reaper was left on the platform. Bang! After being struck by the 9 dragons' claw, the death god's body retreated frantically. So strong! Everyone was shocked. After Lu Ming's blood meridian erupted, his combat strength had increased by a notch and he had completely surpassed Darkchild. Bloodline of the 9 dragons, one of the top 10 battle beasts. Interesting. On the side of the platform, Long Chen, who had been unmoved all this time, suddenly had a shocking light in his eyes. He muttered something to himself, but no one heard him. Thump. Boom. The 9 dragons stepped on the air and pounced toward the last death god. Bang. Although the death god tried its best to resist, it was already an arrow at the end of its flight. How could it stop Lu Ming? His body exploded, revealing Darkchild's true body. His face was pale as his figure flashed backward rapidly. The 9 dragons pursued. Darkchild's expression changed. Finally, he sighed and retreated from the platform. Leaving the platform could be considered as admitting defeat. He knew that there was no need to continue fighting. He could only admit defeat. Seeing that Darkchild had admitted defeat, the 9 dragons' body shrank rapidly. The next moment, a handsome young man appeared on the platform. This was Lu Ming's original appearance. It was also the appearance he had used when he was using the name Lu Shaoqing. At this moment, almost everyone's eyes were on Lu Ming. Lu Ming, it's you. The patriarch of the Wang family roared in anger. His killing intent was extremely strong, and his body emitted a powerful aura. What are you doing? Shut up. A cold shout rang in the ears of the master of the Wang family, causing him to tremble and his aura to weaken rapidly. This was the voice of an emperor. All the emperors had gathered here, and the emperor had yet to speak. Was it his turn to unleash his killing intent? Lu Ming. The emperor god clenched his fists so tightly that his veins were bulging. The people of the Empyrean Divine Palace were truly shocked and surprised. They did not understand why Lu Ming would appear here. Lu Ming, it's really him. I didn't expect him to be so powerful. Shuijian Yi, Shizhan, Ao2, and Feng Xian of the Heavenly Corpse sect all sighed in disbelief. Their gazes were complicated. It had been almost 2 years since the Battle of Providence. In the past 2 years, they had been improving, but Lu Ming's improvement was even more shocking. He had already left them far behind. Even the top paragons of the Divine Wilderness continent had been defeated by Lu Ming. He was already standing at the peak of the Divine Wilderness continent's younger generation. As for them, they were still far from it. Is he really Lu Ming? I can't believe there's such a terrifying heaven's favorite in the East continent. Someone in the crowd said with a complicated voice. The Eastern Barren territory had always been the weakest. Previously, everyone had said that only the Emperor God was decent and that the other geniuses of the Eastern Barren territory were not worth mentioning. However, Lu Ming had emerged and suppressed everyone. He was destined to enter the top 3. So, he is Lu Ming. At this moment, those who had been defeated by Lu Ming previously, such as Lu Yusin, Shi Du, and the 3-headed hellhound, were mumbling in low voices. No one knew what thoughts flashed in their minds. Chapter 1131. 1131 Lu Ming's request. All eyes were on Lu Ming. All kinds of thoughts flashed through their minds, but most of them were exclaiming in admiration at Lu Ming's ability. Brother Lu, you've kept us in the dark for so long. Outside the platform, Goddess Tan Xiang spoke in a strange tone. I'm sorry, Fairy. Lu Ming has no other choice. Lu Ming cupped his fists and his voice spread throughout the entire area. Since he had been exposed, he should admit it. It seems that it's a great era now. Even the East Baron has someone like Lu Ming. That's right. It's a golden age. No territory can be underestimated. It's possible for extraordinary geniuses to appear. Someone sighed. Lu Ming's battle results were too dazzling. Previously, Lu Shaoqing's name had already shaken the entire central continent. Recently, he had even transformed into the commander of the law enforcement army and defeated Lu Yusin, the Divine Emperor, Lion City, the 3-headed Hellhound, and Darkchild in succession. 3 of them were heaven's favorites of the big shots. This battle record was too brilliant. Lu Ming, Lu Ming, Lu Ming from the East Baron. His powerful devouring power should be the talent of the 9 dragons. Blood Luo Zi stared at Lu Ming, his eyes flickering. No one knew what he was thinking. At the same time, Many experts of the heavenly martial sword faction had killing intent flashing in their eyes. However, in such a situation, no one dared to show it. Boom! Boom! At this moment, a violent roar from the platform finally pulled everyone back from their thoughts. They shifted their gaze away from Lu Ming. The battle between the unscrupulous monk and Yang Patian had also reached its final stage. In the end, Yang Patian was no match for the monk. After exchanging 100 moves, he was still defeated by the monk and thrown off the platform. At this point, the top three were born. They were Long Chen, Lu Ming, and the Heartless Monk. Many people were looking forward to it. Right now, each of the three of them was terrifyingly strong and unfathomable. Long Chen had always been the strongest heaven's favorite. He was the first to become a spirit god and was unrivaled among his peers. Just now, he had defeated Tuobashir with a single punch, shocking everyone. The unscrupulous monk, the strange holy monk of the western desert, had defeated Yang Patian. He was always smiling and had a harmless look on his face, making people feel that he was unfathomable. Lu Ming could be considered the strongest dark horse this time. He had first transformed into Lu Shaoqing and the commander of the law enforcement army. Along the way, he had defeated many experts and even a prodigy like Dark Child. His strength was unfathomable. Everyone was looking forward to the clash between the three. What everyone was looking forward to was whether Lu Ming or the unscrupulous monk could force Long Chen to reveal his true strength. This was because no one knew how strong Long Chen was. "My hair!" The heartless monk chanted the name of Buddha and looked at Lu Ming. "Ha, a benefactor, so your name is Lu Ming. It's a pleasure to meet you." "Monk, we've met several times." Lu Ming smiled. "Ah, that's right. Almsgiver Lu's combat strength is so profound that it's really admirable. I didn't expect you to defeat Dark Child. I've had many battles with Dark Child in the past, but I couldn't defeat him. Since you can defeat him, I'm no match for you." I admit defeat. The monk chuckled and turned around. He left the platform in a carefree manner. The unscrupulous monk had admitted defeat. In this case, only Lu Ming and Long Chen were left. The bloodline of the 9 dragons? Interesting. I'd like to see the power of the bloodline of the 9 dragons. Long Chen, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke. He looked at Lu Ming with a hint of anticipation in his eyes. This kind of anticipation was like the anticipation of someone who had been invincible for too long and had no opponents. That's right, Long Chen had been invincible for far too long. He was unrivaled among the younger generation. He needed an opponent, and he desired one. Without a doubt, in his heart, Lu Ming could possibly be his opponent. This wasn't arrogance, but his true thoughts. "I want to fight with you." "Unfortunately, I'm not interested in the first place." After saying that, Lu Ming moved and floated off the platform. Lu Ming's goal was to come in second or third. He did not want to come in first at all. The winner would have to marry Xian Yanlin. Lu Ming only wanted the second or third place and the Sacred Emperor to agree to one condition. Lu Ming actually admitted defeat. What a pity! What a pity! Many people sighed. They had thought that they would be able to see a peak battle, but the result was unexpected. First, the unscrupulous monk admitted defeat. Then, Lu Ming also admitted defeat. Thus, the competition was over. Alright, the competition ends here. Long Chen has won first place. He will be engaged to my daughter, Xian Yanlin, soon. Xie Qitian stood up and announced. Besides Xie Qitian, Xian Yanlin was smiling happily. On the platform, Long Chen turned to look at Xian Yanlin with a smile on his face. Not many people knew that Long Chen and Xian Yanlin had long since developed feelings for each other and were secretly dating. The competition this time was just a formality. Xian Yanlin, Xie Qitian, and the others all knew that Long Chen would take first place without a doubt. No one could defeat him. Xie Qitian could also take this opportunity to establish a good relationship with the various overlord forces, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. From now on, the Heavenly Sun Palace and the royal Xie family will be married. The royal family will become even more powerful. Someone sighed in the dark. Long Chen was from the Heavenly Sun Palace, an extremely powerful overlord force. With Long Chen and Xian Yanlin's union, the two forces would definitely have to work together in the future. There are many heaven's favorites in the royal family. Xian Yanjuan, Xian Yanlin, Xie Yan, all of them are top heaven's favorites. Is the royal family going to return to glory? The royal family is indeed powerful. In the future, they will have a marriage alliance with the Sun Sky Palace and gather the two strongest heaven's favorites. It is indeed possible for them to rise. However, the other forces may not let them rise as they wish. In the dark, some people were whispering to each other. The marriage between the imperial family and the Heavenly Sun Palace had a far-reaching impact. Also, Lu Ming, the heartless holy monk. Xie Qitian's gaze shifted to Lu Ming and the heartless monk. The two of them flew up to the platform and saluted Xie Qitian. I'll agree to one condition for the second and third place. What do you want? Lu Ming, you go first. Xie Qitian's gaze shifted to Lu Ming. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. They had finally arrived. He had been waiting for this moment. The masters of the Wang family, the Jiang family, the Divine Emperor, and the others were all on tenterhooks. If Lu Ming suggested that the Sacred Emperor protect him against Di, it would be troublesome. Di could not do anything against the ancient sacred dynasty. Sage Emperor, Lu Ming has nothing else to ask of you. I only ask that you set Nianqing free. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said, What? Xie Qitian frowned. At the scene, the others were also stunned. They had thought that Lu Ming would ask for some peerless cultivation technique, martial arts technique, or treasure from the royal family. They had never expected that Lu Ming would make such a request to the Sage Emperor. Chapter 1132. 1132 Chapter 1132 Berating the Sage Emperor. Everyone did not expect that Lu Ming's request was to set one person free. Nianqing? Who was it? Many people were curious. This name is very similar to the two princesses. It's said that there's a little princess in the royal family who has a different bloodline from the royal family. Could it be that Lu Ming is talking about this little princess? Someone guessed. In the end, many people sighed. It was not worth it for Lu Ming to put forward this condition. He had wasted a great opportunity. However, Lu Ming's gaze was firm. In his heart, this was the most important thing. The masters of the Wang and Jiang families, the Divine Emperor, and the rest heaved a sigh of relief. They were really afraid that Lu Ming would ask Xie Qitian to protect him. Ha, how stupid! The patriarch of the Wang clan laughed in his heart. Lu Ming, don't be delusional. Xian Yanqing is a weirdo. You want to set her free? What a joke. Also, back in the Nine Dragons city of the East Continent, it was you who repeatedly obstructed us and even injured my royal family members. Today, you still dare to say such words. You're really audacious. Xie Zhen stood up and looked at Lu Ming coldly as he berated him loudly. What? How dare you hurt someone from the royal family? Lu Ming, you first sneaked into the law enforcement army and deliberately destroyed the relationship between the royal family and the other overlord forces. What are your intentions? A middle-aged man stood up and said coldly. Lu Ming recognized him. He was the imperial uncle who had appeared in the Hall of Justice when Lu Ming was confronting the elder of the Heaven Martial Sword faction, Xie Qiu. Because of Lu Ming, their relationship with the Heaven's Martial Sword faction had worsened, forcing Xie Qiu to show up. He was already unhappy with Lu Ming, and now he naturally came out to berate him. It's indeed the little princess of the imperial family, that mutant. Xie Zhen's words made everyone's heart skip a beat. But how did Lu Ming get to know that little princess? It seemed that in the East Wilderness, the imperial family had suffered at the hands of Lu Ming. This Lu Ming was really a monster. Lu Ming cast a cold glance at Xie Zhen and Xie Qiu, then ignored them and faced the Sage Emperor. Saint Emperor, you said before that if you could place in the top 3, you would be able to raise a condition. My condition is to set Nianqing free. I don't need anything else, nor do I have to enter the ancient hall. Lu Ming stood straight, neither servile nor overbearing, and his gaze was firm. Xie Qitian's brows furrowed even more, and his face turned cold. Lu Ming, this won't do. You'd better change your condition. His tone was filled with an unquestionable tone. Xie Qitian's meaning was already very clear. That was impossible. However, Lu Ming would not give up just like that. Sage Emperor, why don't you let him go? Is it because Nianqing's bloodline is different from the rest of the imperial family? Could it be that only those with pure bloodlines were members of the Xie family? Wouldn't the Xie family be inclined towards the dark bloodline? Please forgive this junior's foolish opinion, but this way of thinking is too pedantic. Lu Ming's voice spread throughout the entire venue and everyone quieted down. Almost everyone looked at Lu Ming in shock. How bold of Lu Ming to speak to the Sage Emperor in such a manner. Even a fool could tell that Lu Ming was implying that the Sage Emperor was pedantic. Audacious, he was truly audacious. Even the other kings would not dare to speak to Xie Qitian in such a manner. Lu Ming's words were simply too shocking. How dare you? How dare you? Lu Ming, you lowly ant. How dare you speak to my father like that? You're courting death. Xie Zhen roared. He deserves to die 10,000 times and his entire clan should be exterminated. Xie Qiyu shouted coldly. Although his words were short, his killing intent was soaring. Xie Qitian did not say a word. He was still frowning, and no one knew what he was thinking. Lu Ming continued to ignore Xie Zhen and Xie Qitian. He did not even look at them and continued to face Xie Qitian. Bloodline is just a tool for martial artists. It depends on how you use it. If you use it well, it's good. If you don't use it well, it's not good. The key is still the person who uses it. Lu Ming's voice was loud and clear, neither servile nor overbearing. He had no fear and argued strongly. Ridiculous. That's nonsense. Xie Nianqing is of a foreign bloodline. She's a rebel. If we let her go, she would have turned against us. Xie Zhen continued to berate him. Ha, what a joke. What is a rebellious bloodline? Back then, wasn't the chaotic heavens divine warrior forced out? If the entire imperial family treated him equally, without any humiliation or oppression, why would he have betrayed us? Lu Ming laughed heartily. As soon as he said that, everyone was shocked. Boom, boom, boom. In the imperial family, a terrifying aura suddenly burst out. A cold killing intent enveloped Lu Ming. Audacious fanatic, you're courting death. He should be killed. Heinous crimes. One after another, howls sounded out as the powerful existences were enraged. Their terrifying auras filled the sky as if the world was about to be destroyed. Endless pressure pressed down on Lu Ming. There were many supreme beings among them. Boom! Lu Ming used all his strength to resist, but he was still suppressed by the pressure. His body trembled and he retreated rapidly, a mouthful of blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. The chaotic heavens divine warrior was a taboo of the royal family. Lu Ming had actually dared to mention it on such an occasion. He had touched the royal family's sore spot. Sage Emperor, there's an ancient saying that a sovereign cannot be ridiculed. Moreover, you are the Sage Emperor. Are you going to go back on your word? Lu Ming shouted. He had already come this far today and there was no way out. Lu Ming had nothing to fear. He could only move forward bravely. When I said I would agree to one condition, I meant that it was something I could do, said Xie Qitian. What's so difficult about my conditions? Moreover, Nianqing is your daughter, your biological daughter. Did you give birth to her just to lock her up for the rest of her life? Lu Ming shouted. The vital essence in his body circulated crazily and the five-colored will enveloped his body to resist the pressure that was pressing on him. Impudent! Men, kill this person! Xie Zhen roared. His killing intent was boundless, and his face revealed a ferocious expression. Back in Nine Dragons, he had gone there as the prince of the ancient Saint dynasty. He should have been high and mighty, but Lu Ming had defeated him in front of everyone, embarrassing him. He had always harbored a grudge against Lu Ming. Even after such a long time, he had not forgotten about it. Now that he had such an opportunity, he naturally could not wait to cut Lu Ming into 1,000 pieces. Kill! 2 guards in iron armor shouted. A terrifying aura burst out as they stepped forward to kill Lu Ming. Everyone sighed and thought that Lu Ming was definitely going to die today. It was such a pity to lose such a prodigy. All right, I'm done. At this moment, Xie Qitian spoke indifferently and waved his hand. The 2 guards immediately stopped, and the other members of the imperial family also retracted their auras. Lu Ming felt his body relax and he heaved a sigh of relief. Lu Ming, I'm an emperor, and I'm a man of my word. However, your condition is an important matter for the royal family, and I can't agree to it so easily. How about this? Nianqing is now in the Abyss Demon territory, fighting for the royal family and killing the Masha clan. If you're willing to enter the Abyss Demon territory and kill the Masha clan, once you've killed enough Masha clan members and accumulated enough achievements for the royal family, I'll let you leave together. Xie Qitian muttered to himself. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Xie Qitian's words meant that he had already given in. Chapter 1133. 1133 Entering the Abyss Demonic Realm. Is the Sage Emperor's words true? Lu Ming stared at Xie Qitian. I'm a man of my word. Anyone who enters the Abyss Demon territory and kills the Masha clan will be rewarded with points. As long as you can get 10,000 points, I promise to let you 2 leave together and never interfere with Nianqing's affairs again. Xie Qitian said. All right, I agree. Lu Ming said. Lu Ming believed that Xie Qitian would not go back on his word in front of so many emperors and people. Lu Ming was clear that it would not be easy to go to the Abyss Demon territory to hunt down the Masha clan. However, there was still hope. Moreover, his identity had been exposed. De would probably find out soon. Entering the Abyss Demon territory, not only could he find Nianqing, but he could also avoid De for the time being. For Lu Ming, it was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. At this moment, the eyes of Xie Zhen, Xie Qiu, and the others flickered. They did not say anything, and it was unknown what they were thinking. All right, it's settled then. After the banquet is over, I'll ask someone to take you to the demon realm of Tartarus. Xie Qitian said. Immediately after, Xie Qitian asked the unscrupulous monk about his conditions. The unscrupulous monk was very smart. He said that he would not mention it for the time being and would mention it in the future. But 3 days from now, the top 10 will be able to enter the ancient hall of the Saint Emperor to comprehend the Tao. Xie Qitian announced, and the banquet continued. The banquet lasted for half a day before it ended. The overlord forces began to leave one by one. The masters of the Wang family, the Jiang family, and the Divine Emperor also left in a hurry. They had to rush back to the East Baron to report to De about Lu Ming. It was too strange. Lu Ming was still in the Talisman Amulet sect. How did he suddenly appear in the Central Continent and now he was going to enter the Abyss Demon realm? He had to know about this as soon as possible. Soon, everyone dispersed. Lu Ming, come with us. The 2 guards in metal armor came to Lu Ming and said coldly. Lu Ming swept his gaze across the 2 of them and realized that he could not see through their cultivation at all. Their cultivation was unfathomable. To the Abyss Demon territory? Lu Ming said. That's right. The Sage Emperor ordered us to take you to the Abyss Demonic Realm. The entrance to the Abyss Demonic Realm is to the north of the Holy City. One of the armored guards said. Please. Lu Ming nodded. The 2 armored guards took the lead and Lu Ming followed behind. They headed north of the Holy City. Not long after, they arrived at the northern side of the Holy City. After passing through layers and layers of barriers, they came to a huge door of light. Along the way, Lu Ming did a quick calculation. They had passed a total of 18 checkpoints. Each checkpoint had an extremely powerful array and was guarded by powerful experts. It could be seen that the imperial family placed great importance on this place. This is the entrance to the Abyss Demon realm. Take this jade token. As long as you kill a fiend clan member in the Abyss Demon realm, the jade token will sense it and you will get the corresponding points. One of the armored guards introduced. However, there was a hint of a cold smile in the depths of his eyes. Many thanks. Lu Ming took the jade card and kept it. All right, let's go in, one of the guards said. Lu Ming nodded and turned around. He stepped into the door of light and disappeared. Hee hee, you want to get 10,000 points in the Abyss Demon Realm? Dream on. Stay there for the rest of your life. The Sage Emperor's move is truly brilliant. The two guards sneered, then turned around and strode away. At this moment, in the palace, Xie Zhen and Xie Qiyu were sitting opposite each other in a hall. Imperial Brother's move is indeed brilliant. Not only did you shut Lu Ming's mouth, but you also fulfilled your promise. I'm really impressed. Xie Qiyu took a sip of the spirit tea and smiled. It's almost impossible to kill the Mo Sha in the Abyss Demon territory and get 10,000 points. But I still feel uneasy. Xie Zhen frowned. That bitch, Xian Yanqing, is too talented. He's no weaker than the top figures. Moreover, he has awakened a dark-type bloodline. He's like a fish in water in the Abyss Demon territory. He can still cultivate and improve his cultivation. As for that Lu Ming, he's even more shocking. 3 years ago, he was only at the Sea of Souls realm, and his cultivation was lower than mine. However, in just a short 3 years, his cultivation has soared to the 3rd level of the spiritual god realm. His combat strength is even more shocking, and he has defeated many big shots and geniuses in a row. In my opinion, no one can suppress him except Long Chen. I can't rest easy as long as such a person is alive. You want to kill him in the Abyss Demon realm? Xie Tianyu said. That's right. However, although this Lu Ming's cultivation is only at the 3rd level of the spiritual god realm, his combat strength is too terrifying. I'm afraid that even an ordinary 6th level spiritual god is not his match. To kill him, we'll have to mobilize a 7th level spiritual god or even stronger existence. However, with my authority, I can't mobilize such a strong existence. Therefore, I'll need Imperial Uncle's help. Xie Zhen said. You're right. We can't let Lu Ming live. We should take this opportunity to kill Xian Yanqing and the other mutant. Xie Qiyu's face revealed a cold smile. Many thanks, Imperial Uncle. Xie Zhen was overjoyed as he thanked him. After Lu Ming stepped into the door of light, he stepped out from another door of light. Where is this place? Lu Ming swept his gaze and realized that he had already arrived at another place. This place seemed to be a city. Above the city, there was a huge light shield that covered the entire city, making it impossible to see the scene outside the light shield. Is this the Abyss Demon territory? Lu Ming's heart stirred. Another person has come. A voice was heard from the side. Lu Ming saw a few burly men in armor. Big brothers, is this the Abyss Demon territory? Lu Ming went forward and asked. That's right. This is the Abyss Demon territory. We're from the royal family, and we're responsible for guarding the city and preventing the Fiend clan from attacking the exit here. Why have you come here? One of the burly men explained and asked. I'm here to hunt down the Mo Sha clan and obtain points. Lu Ming said, but he did not tell the truth. Another exiles. Upon hearing Lu Ming's words, the few burly men's faces turned cold and they sneered. Exiles? Lu Ming frowned. All right, you can stay in this city for the night. The moon is high in the sky now, and the demonic qi is at its strongest. In order to prevent the demonic qi from seeping in, the city is now tightly closed and will not open. You can leave the city tomorrow. A man in armor waved his hand and said. Lu Ming nodded. He did not ask further and left the place in big strides. Not long after, Lu Ming came to a street and realized that there were quite a lot of people here. However, every one of them had an extremely strong aura and were all experts. With a sweep of his spiritual sense, he found that there were many spiritual god realm existences. These people were all sent by the imperial family to guard this place. Lu Ming walked around and asked around. Indeed, he could not leave the city now. He had to wait until tomorrow. Lu Ming casually found a quiet place and sat cross-legged, waiting quietly. More than an hour after Lu Ming had entered the place, the door of light in the abyss demon territory flashed and 4 elders appeared. Chapter 1134. 1134 8th Level Spiritual God Realm Expert. As soon as the 4 old men appeared, a terrifying aura emanated from their bodies, causing the expressions of the armored men to change. "You guys, what are you talking about?" one of the armored men asked. One of the old men waved his hand and a token appeared in his hand. When the armored men saw the token, they immediately straightened their bodies and showed a respectful expression. "So it's you, sirs, may I know why you've come?" one of the armored men asked carefully. "Was there a young man who entered earlier?" the old man with the token asked. "My lord, are you referring to the exiles? He came in about an hour ago, so he should be somewhere in the city now." The armored man replied respectfully. "Somewhere in the city." The 4 old men nodded and left. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, it was the 2nd day. Lu Ming flew toward the city wall. "Those who want to leave the city, hurry up and leave the city." At the city gate, a burly man in battle armor shouted. At this moment, the city gate had already opened up to a gap that could only allow 1 person to pass through. From the opening, black mist spread in. Lu Ming's figure flashed and he rushed out of the opening. "Is this the abyss demon territory?" After rushing out of the city, the light suddenly dimmed. The light between heaven and earth was very dim, and there was a black mist floating between heaven and earth. The entire land was dark. He raised his head and saw a sun in the sky. However, the sun was also dark and seemed very oppressive. "This place is filled with dense demonic chi, but there's no spiritual chi of heaven and earth here." Lu Ming sensed and realized that there was no spiritual energy in this world. Instead, it was filled with thick demonic energy. It would be very difficult for ordinary warriors to cultivate here. Because there was no spiritual chi of heaven and earth, they could only absorb demonic chi and refine it. However, the difficulty of refining demonic chi was tens or even hundreds of times more difficult than refining spiritual chi of heaven and earth. However, it did not matter to Lu Ming. He had the 9 dragons, bloodline, and could devour and refine everything. He could also quickly refine the demonic chi. "Little Qin, where are you?" Lu Ming looked into the distance. His body moved and he turned into a ray of light that rushed forward. Not long after Lu Ming disappeared, 4 elders rushed out of the city behind him. Their expressions changed and they chased after Lu Ming. Lu Ming walked forward and sized up the abyss demon territory. The demon realm of the abyss was vast and boundless, with mountains, rivers, and everything. It was said that it was an extremely large midplane that automatically evil-levered into a boundless world. There were countless living beings and plants here. Most of the plants were black or dark red. There were also powerful demonic beasts here. However, these demonic beasts were born from absorbing demonic chi and were called demonic beasts. They had low intelligence, but they were very powerful. Of course, the ruler of the abyss demon territory was the Masha clan. It was said that the Fiend clan was a large clan in the Divine Wilderness continent long ago. They occupied a large territory, but were later defeated by the human race and escaped to the abyss demon territory. However, they were still very powerful and would often attack the ancient Saint Dynasty Xie clan. Therefore, the royal family had sent an army to guard the entrance. Moreover, the Fiend clan was extremely cunning. They could fly in the sky and burrow underground in the 9 abyss demon territory, so it was very difficult to kill them. Although the royal family and the Xie family would send experts to kill them every once in a while, they could not kill all of them. They were a big threat to the royal family. There was also a rumor that the reason why the chaotic heavens divine warrior Ciel Wan was able to launch a rebellion and inflict heavy losses on the royal Xie clan was because he had the help of the devil clan of the demon realm. Whoosh! All of a sudden, a black ray of light shot out from a mountain peak below at an astonishing speed, heading straight for Lu Ming. What? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He stretched out 2 fingers and flicked them accurately at the dark light, sending it flying. This is the Devil Clan. Lu Ming looked at the creature that attacked him. It was a human-shaped living being that was 2 heads shorter than Lu Ming. This living being was covered in black hair and had a pair of wings on its back. On the wings there were sharp black bone spikes. It was the same bone spike that had stabbed him just now. Furthermore, this living being had a mouth full of fangs and an extremely ferocious appearance, just like the Azuras in the legends. This was the Mo Sha clan. Human kill. The Ma Sha clansman howled. He held a black bone spur in his hand. He flapped his wings and charged at Lu Ming at top speed. The bone spur in his hand was like a sharp sword. This Mo Sha clan was equivalent to a human martial artist of the 5th level of the spirit embryo realm. Lu Ming waved his hand, and a spear's gleam appeared. It flashed and disappeared like a bolt of lightning, flying out and killing the fiend clan member. Then, a jade card appeared in Lu Ming's hand. However, there was no reaction from the jade token. Didn't they say that killing a Mo Sha would give the corresponding points? Why is there no reaction? Lu Ming furrowed his eyebrows slightly. Then he flew closer to the corpse of the Mo Sha, but there was still no reaction. No points appeared at all. What's going on? Lu Ming's frown deepened. Not good, Lu Ming. There are a few powerful beings flying over at high speed from the distance. They're coming from the direction of the city you came from. Dandan, who had just arrived in the Abyss Demon realm, crawled out and suddenly shouted. How many powerful existences are there? Could it be that you're also here to hunt down the Mo Sha clan? Lu Ming muttered and looked in that direction. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. 4 rainbow lights streaked across the sky and flew over at an extreme speed, bringing with them a rumbling sonic boom. When he saw Lu Ming, his eyes suddenly lit up and a cold, killing intent filled the air. There's killing intent, he's here to kill me. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and he retreated without hesitation. Lu Ming die. A black-robed elder roared, his voice shaking the firmament. The Esilavir combat sword was unsheathed from his back. The Esilavir sword light illuminated the dark abyss demon territory, splitting the sky. The terrifying sword chi instantly crossed the distance of hundreds of miles and slashed toward Lu Ming. Not good. This is the 8th level of the spiritual god realm. Lu Ming was shocked. The power of this sword was too terrifying, incomparably terrifying, as if it could destroy everything. Furthermore, it was so fast that Lu Ming did not even have the time to perform the blood meridian fusion. He could only burst out the 7 rays of dragon energy from the 9 dragons' blood meridian and fuse them into his body. At the same time, the space between his eyebrows glowed and the small red pagoda appeared. It expanded rapidly and blocked in front of Lu Ming. Clang! The Esilavir sword gleam slashed at the red tower. The terrifying force sent the red tower flying and crashed into Lu Ming. Lu Ming and the red tower were like 2 cannonballs, flying backward. Boom! Lu Ming crashed into a mountain peak, breaking the peak of the mountain. His body flew back a few miles before stopping in the air, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Lu Ming was injured in one move. Chapter 1135. 1135 Chapter 1135 Endless Killing Intent. Buzz. Bush. The 4 elders appeared around Lu Ming and surrounded him. Their terrifying auras bloomed without any concealment, forming a terrifying pressure that pressed down on him. 2 were at the 7th level of the spiritual god realm, and 2 were at the 8th level of the spiritual god realm. Lu Ming could sense the strength of the 4 people. The royal Xie family is truly despicable. Lu Ming wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and revealed a mocking smile. To be able to enter this place to kill him, other than the royal family and the Xie family, there would not be a second force. He didn't need to guess to know that these 4 people were definitely sent by the royal family's Xie family. Lu Ming had not expected the royal Xie family, the royal family of the ancient Saint dynasty, to be so despicable. He promised him in front of others, but secretly sent people to kill him. Moreover, they really thought highly of him, sending 2 7th-level spiritual gods and 2 8th-level spiritual gods. This kind of person was considered a high-level spiritual god. Even among the various forces, he was considered a top expert. Those who were able to cultivate to the 7th tier of the spiritual god realm and above were not weak in their talents. Generally, it would be difficult for those with 2nd or 3rd level divine level bloodlines to cultivate to the 7th tier of the spiritual god realm and above. Those who were able to reach the 7th tier of the spiritual god realm and above would usually awaken bloodlines that were 4th level divine level and above. There was no doubt that such a person had definitely mastered a god-level martial technique and was very powerful. Even with Lu Ming's combat strength, it would not be a problem for him to defeat or even kill an expert at the 6th level of the spiritual god realm. However, he would definitely not be a match for an expert at the 7th level of the spiritual god realm. Not to mention the existence of an 8th level spiritual god. Facing an 8th level spiritual god, Lu Ming's chances of survival were slim. This time, it was a sure kill. Impudent. The royal family is not something you can comment on. You want to save Xian Yanqing? What a wild dream. An elder in the 7th level of the spiritual god realm berated. A battle saber was suspended above his head, and a terrifying saber intent bloomed in the air. He, acting one way in front of others and another way behind others. To do such a despicable and shameless thing, how can you have the face to be part of the royal family? No wonder the Xie family declined. Lu Ming sneered. How dare you? You're courting death. Everyone, you'll hold the line for me. Leave this kid to me. I'll kill him today. The old man with the floating saber shouted with a sharp killing intent. All right, I'll leave him to you. The elder at the 8th level of the spiritual god realm who had attacked earlier nodded and retreated with the other 2 people. They formed a huge encirclement, surrounding Lu Ming and his companion in the middle and blocking all of Lu Ming's escape routes. Buzz! The saber trembled as it was held by the old man. His eyes were filled with excitement and he said with a ferocious smile, Lu Ming, remember, the one who killed you is Xie Xie. Buzz! The saber slashed down and the saber power filled the air. A vast and terrifying saber radiance slashed towards Lu Ming. The 3rd bloodline appeared above Lu Ming's head. A wisp of energy surged into Lu Ming's body, turning his long black hair blood red. At the same time, the 3rd bloodline squirmed and transformed into a long spear. Buzz! Lu Ming held the long spear in his hand and swept it out, colliding with the saber gleam. Boom! The terrifying sound of the explosion spread thousands of miles away. Lu Ming's body trembled and he could not help but retreat. The 7th level spiritual god realm's combat strength is indeed terrifying. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. His combat strength at the 7th level of the spiritual god realm had completely surpassed Lu Ming. So what if you're a heaven's favorite whose name shakes the world? So what if he was a rare heaven's favorite? You're still going to die in my hands. Xie Xie howled, his saber intent growing stronger as he charged at Lu Ming. 9 dragons appeared above Lu Ming's head. Lu Ming transformed into the 9 dragons. With the power of his 3rd bloodline, he launched a violent attack and fought Xie Xie. Xie Xie also used his bloodline fusion. Xie Xie's bloodline was a 5th level divine level saber. Under the activation of his 7th level spiritual god cultivation, it was incomparably powerful. Lu Ming was completely suppressed. In the blink of an eye, dozens of moves had been exchanged, and several saber wounds had appeared on the 9 dragons' body. This person's combat strength is truly astonishing. With his cultivation at the 3rd level of the spiritual god realm, he was actually able to fight with Xie Xie for such a long time. It's simply unbelievable. An elder at the side said. Even though he was about to kill Lu Ming, he could not help but exclaim. In the spiritual god realm, it would be more difficult to fight across levels as one advanced. To be able to fight so many moves with a 7th level spiritual god realm expert with a cultivation of the 3rd level spiritual god realm was truly too shocking. It was simply inconceivable. They had lived for thousands of years, but this was the first time they had seen such a thing. This kid's talent is truly heaven-defying. In the divine wilderness continent, other than Long Chen, no one is his match. In time, he will become a terrifying and invincible emperor. Unfortunately, this kid is too lawless. Only death awaits him. The other elder said. His voice was cold, but his eyes were filled with surprise. Brat die. Xie roared, his battle prowess growing even more violent. After exchanging dozens of moves, he still could not kill Lu Ming. He felt very embarrassed and the killing intent in his heart grew stronger. Old man, you've cultivated for thousands of years and only have this little combat power. If I were you, I would have killed myself. Lu Ming spoke sarcastically, but he was rapidly thinking of a way to escape. The surroundings were sealed off by 3 powerhouses. It was too difficult to break through. The main thing was that the 8th level of the spiritual god realm was too powerful. If there were 4 7th level spiritual god realm existences, Lu Ming would have full confidence in breaking through with the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps. However, with 2 8th level spiritual god realm existences, the chances of Lu Ming breaking through were very small. Brat, you think you're a genius? A dead genius is no genius. Let me tell you, after I kill you today, I'll go after Xian Yanqing. If you want to leave, dream on. Xie coldly shouted, his attacks becoming even more violent. Boom! Lu Ming's eyes were bloodshot as he bellowed, you still want to kill little Qin? That lowly beast should have died long ago. This time I'll take care of him as well. Xie sneered. You all deserve to die, kill. Lu Ming let out a furious roar. His 3rd blood meridian trembled and wisps of energy surged towards Lu Ming, filling his heart with endless killing intent. Lu Ming's killing intent was already frighteningly intense when Xie said that they were going to kill Xian Yanqing. Coupled with the power of his 3rd bloodline, there was only endless killing intent in his mind. You can't use too much of your bloodline's power. Otherwise, you'll become a puppet that only knows how to kill. Dandan called out to Lu Ming, allowing him to barely retain a trace of clarity. At this moment, Lu Ming's body seemed to be filled with infinite power. The 9 dragons emitted a thick blood-red color. Buzz! The 9 dragons swiped their claws at Xie. Not good, this strength. Xie's eyes widened in shock. In an instant he felt the power in Lu Ming's body increase explosively, especially his killing intent. It was extremely terrifying, as if he wanted to kill all the living creatures in the world. It made his heart turn cold and he shivered. The claws of the 9 dragons clawed at him, and he seemed to be suffocating. Xie let out a hysterical roar and launched his most powerful attack to collide with the 9 dragons' dragon claws. Chapter 1136. 1136 Dandan's main body. Bang! Xie's body was sent flying as he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was enveloped by endless killing intent and could not exert his full strength at all. In addition, Lu Ming had borrowed more power from the 3rd bloodline. With a full-force attack, he had injured Xie. Then, the 9 dragons let out a long roar and collapsed. However, in the light of the collapse of the 9 dragons, a huge stone tablet rushed out and bloomed with light. The bloodline of the prison-suppressing steel. As soon as the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline was unleashed, it grew rapidly to the size of a mountain. The prison-suppressing steel was also filled with a thick blood-red light, which pressed down on Xie Yan with an immense force. Help! Xie shrieked in fear as he felt the terrifying killing intent and all-suppressing aura from the prison-suppressing steel. Stop! At the side, the other 3 experts shouted and rushed toward Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming did not care and continued to suppress Xie. No! Xie roared and used all his strength to resist. However, his current injuries had greatly reduced his combat strength, so how could he resist? As the prison-suppressing steel pressed down, Xie spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood vessels in his body burst, and in the next moment his entire body exploded with a bang. Xie, a 7th-level spiritual god realm expert, was killed by Lu Ming on the spot. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time, the other 3 attacks hit the prison-suppressing steel at the same time, sending it flying. It shook violently and almost collapsed. Kill, kill, kill. The prison-suppressing steel shook and Lu Ming's cold and emotionless voice kept coming out of it. The blood-red light filled the air. We can't let this kid live. An elder in the 8th level of the spiritual god realm spoke, his heart filled with shock. A 3rd-level spiritual god realm martial artist was actually able to kill a 7th-level spiritual god realm expert. It was too shocking and he had never heard of it. He felt a chill in his heart and was filled with the desire to kill Lu Ming. 2 of them were at the 8th level of the spiritual god realm, while the other was at the 7th level. Their bodies emitted a terrifying aura that locked onto Lu Ming. All of you will die today. Lu Ming's cold voice was heard. He wanted to borrow more power from the 3rd bloodline to kill these people. Lu Ming, you can't continue to borrow the power of your bloodline. Otherwise, it'll be difficult for you to maintain your consciousness. Dandan shouted. Kill, these people must be killed. Lu Ming shouted. At this moment, there was only a trace of clarity left in his mind. It was as if he would be devoured and drowned by endless killing intent at any moment. However, it was obviously not enough to kill an 8th-level spiritual god. He needed to borrow more power. However, once he borrowed more power, it would be difficult for Lu Ming to maintain the peace in his heart. He would definitely be devoured by the endless killing intent. But at this point, was there any other way? Lu Ming could only risk his life. Forget it. I'll risk my life for once. Boy, there's no need to continue borrowing power. Dandan heaved long sighs and flew away from Lu Ming toward the 3 experts. You 3 brats, you can die without regrets if you can witness my true power today. Dandan said. At this moment, her body emitted a brilliant light, and a terrifying aura emanated from her body. This aura was high and mighty, as if it was the master of the world, overlooking the endless lives of the world. It also seemed like the entire world. He was the world, and the world was him. In the light, Dandan's body grew at a terrifying speed. Finally, it turned into a divine turtle that was as tall as the sky and larger than a mountain. This is... The 3 old men were shocked. They felt a fatal threat from the giant divine turtle. Die! A voice came out of the giant divine turtle's mouth. The giant turtle grabbed at the 7th-level spiritual god realm expert. The 7th-level spiritual god realm expert wanted to dodge, but he realized that he couldn't move his body. He was imprisoned there, as if he was locked in a world. No! He roared. He watched as the huge claw slammed down and his entire body exploded. Not good, let's go. The remaining 2 8th-level spiritual god realm experts roared in horror. They wanted to escape, but their bodies seemed to have sunk into quagmire, and it was extremely difficult for them to move. Kill! The giant tortoise spat out the word. 2 beams of light shot out from its mouth and pierced through the 2 elders in the 8th level of the spiritual god realm, killing them. The 2 8th-level spiritual god realm experts had died just like that. Even though Lu Ming was filled with endless killing intent, he was still dumbfounded. After killing the 3 experts, the giant turtle rapidly shrank and turned back into a small turtle. It lay in the air weakly and shouted, "What a loss, what a loss. I've accumulated so much energy for so long and it's almost all used up in a short while. Lu Ming, you must stay with me, stay with me." Dandan shouted and floated weakly to Lu Ming. Let's go. Lu Ming's mind barely had a trace of clarity. At this moment, he waved his hand and stored Dandan and the 2 8th-level spiritual god realm experts' corpses into the mountain and river diagram. His body moved and he left the place. The great disturbance here would definitely alert the experts in the city, so they had to leave as soon as possible. Lu Ming turned into a ray of blood-red light and traversed the vast land. Soon he appeared 1,000,000 miles away. He found a hidden place and entered the mountain and river diagram. As soon as he entered the mountain and river diagram, Lu Ming sat cross-legged under the path understanding ancient tree. He closed his eyes and tried his best to resist the endless killing intent. The endless killing intent seemed to be able to drown Lu Ming at any time, turning him into a killing machine. The blood light on his body was shining, but slowly, it faded back into the third bloodline. He sat there for half a month. Half a month later, the power of the third bloodline was completely retracted into the third bloodline and back to Lu Ming's spine. At the same time, he dispelled the endless killing intent in his heart. At this moment, Lu Ming finally opened his eyes. There was no longer any killing intent in his eyes, only clarity. Who? Lu Ming heaved a long sigh of relief. It was really a close call this time. He was almost devoured by the killing intent in the third bloodline. The third bloodline was a double-edged sword. One had to be extremely careful when using it. If one's cultivation wasn't high enough and they borrowed too much power, they would be drowned in endless killing intent. This time, it was fortunate that Dandan had made a move at the end. Otherwise, he would have to borrow even more power. If that had happened, Lu Ming would very likely have been drowned by endless killing intent and become a killing puppet. At the thought of Dandan, Lu Ming looked to the side and happened to see Dandan lying there, gnawing on a stalk of spiritual medicine, looking very weak. Seeing that Lu Ming had woken up, Dandan's back claw kicked and landed on Lu Ming's shoulder, shouting, "Lu Ming, I've suffered a great loss this time. I've lost a lot of vitality. You have to give me the spirit herbs. Otherwise, I won't let you off." "All right, in the future, as long as I don't need any spirit herbs, I'll give them to you." Lu Ming smiled. He waved his hand and a pile of spiritual herbs appeared. Dandan's eyes lit up, and she swallowed all the spirit herbs in one gulp, leaving them behind to eat slowly. "Brat, at least you still have some conscience." Dandan muttered a few words, and then put on a smug look and said, "How is it? I'm invincible, right?" Chapter 1137. 1137 Chapter 1137 Bloodline Advancement. It is indeed very powerful. This time, Lu Ming was full of admiration. Dandan could actually transform into such a huge turtle. It was extremely terrifying and could kill an 8th-level spiritual god in seconds. Lu Ming was really shocked. "Don't make a fuss. Let me tell you, if it wasn't for the fact that this lord's strength is far from recovered, it wouldn't be just that little bit of strength. I'm the divine turtle of the world, the head of the top 10 war beasts. If I'm at my peak, I'll be as large as a world in my true form. Even a martial emperor can be blown to death with a single breath, let alone a mere 8th-level spiritual god realm martial artist." Dandan was proud of himself. He felt very comfortable when he saw Lu Ming's expression of admiration. "Could it be that you've surpassed the emperor level at your peak?" Lu Ming asked curiously. At this point, Lu Ming naturally believed that this was a rebirth of a super expert. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to have such means. Of course, which one of the top 10 battle beasts isn't invincible? Martial emperors are nothing. Take your 9 dragons bloodline as an example. If the 9 dragons were at their peak, they could devour the sun and the moon. Even the sun and the moon in the sky would be devoured by them. What martial emperors? They could devour a whole area with one bite. Dandan's face was full of confidence. Then she sighed and said, "Other than me, I wonder if any of the top 10 battle beasts have survived. That battle back then, I..." At the end of her sentence, Dandan sighed. Lu Ming pricked up his ears and listened carefully. Now, with Dandan's recovery, his memory seemed to have recovered a lot. He might even be able to hear some secrets from him that no one knew. Dandan cast a glance at Lu Ming and said, "Sigh, I'm too weak. I need a good rest." And NBSP. After saying that, he ran away and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming was speechless. Then he moved and appeared on another mountain peak. The 2 8th-level spiritual god realm elders' corpses were still lying there. A spirit god's corpse would not rot even after a few years or even decades. Unfortunately, my true qi and blood qi have already dissipated. Lu Ming sensed it and sighed slightly. He felt that it was a waste. However, the blood essence should still be there. Even if a year has passed since the death of an 8th-level spiritual god realm expert, the blood essence should still be there. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The 9-dragon bloodline emerged and the devouring power burst forth. A total of 18 blood essence pearls that looked like blood-red pearls flew out and were devoured by the 9 dragons. Lu Ming sat cross-legged and began to refine them. The blood essence and power of the 2 8th-level spiritual god realm martial artists were astonishingly rich. Lu Ming began to refine them with all his might. Around the 9-dragon bloodline, there were 7 golden chakra, which were extremely dazzling. As the power of blood essence was refined and integrated, the 7 golden chakras shone more and more brightly. After a moment, there was a sudden buzz and another pale golden chakra appeared. The 8th golden chakra. The 9-dragon bloodline had advanced by another level, advancing to the divine level rank 8 bloodline. The bloodline of the 9 dragons roared, and its body rapidly grew in size and length. It was twice as large as before, and it was even more powerful and mighty. Collect! With a single thought, the 9-dragon bloodline shrank rapidly, turning into a ray of blood-red light that seeped into Lu Ming's spine. As expected, there's an extra dragon energy. Wait, this dragon energy is so strong. Lu Ming sensed a little and his eyes lit up. The advancement of the 9-dragon bloodline also gave birth to one more dragon energy. However, Lu Ming felt that the 8th dragon energy was very powerful, comparable to the sum of the previous 7 dragon energies. In fact, Lu Ming had already discovered before this that each dragon energy would be stronger than the previous one. However, the extent of the strength was limited and not too exaggerated. However, the 8th dragon energy was much stronger than the 7th. An 8th-level divine level bloodline is indeed extraordinary. No wonder only those who have awakened an 8th-level divine level bloodline can be called second-grade prodigies in the central continent. A 7th-level divine level bloodline is much weaker than an 8th-level divine level bloodline. Lu Ming pondered in his heart and a smile appeared on his face. The stronger his dragon power was, the stronger his combat power would be when he used it. Lu Ming was looking forward to what kind of changes would happen when his 9-dragon bloodline advanced to the highest level, the 9th level of the divine level. How strong would his dragon energy be? There was a huge difference between a level 9 divine level expert and a level 8 divine level expert. The difference between a heaven's favorite of a big shot and a second-grade heaven's favorite could be seen. If the 9 dragons bloodline and the prison-suppressing steel bloodline were both promoted to divine level 9, how powerful would Lu Ming's combat strength be? If Lu Ming were to unleash all his dragon power now, he would definitely be able to defeat the other powerful prodigies like Darkchild and the 3-headed Hellhound easily and quickly. After that, Lu Ming kept the 2 8th-level spiritual god realm elders' storage rings. Then, with a wave of his hand, flames spread out and turned the 2 elders' corpses into ashes. Who sent people to kill me? Lu Ming furrowed his brows in deep thought. At first, he thought that it was Xie Qitian who had sent people to kill him. However, those people said that they were going to kill Xian Yanqing after killing him. This made Lu Ming speculate that it was not Xie Qitian. If Xie Qitian wanted to kill Xian Yanqing, he would have done so long ago. Why would he wait until now? Lu Ming guessed that it was someone else who had sent someone. Could it be Xie Zhen? However, does Xie Zhen have such great power to mobilize an 8th-level spiritual god realm expert? Lu Ming pondered. There were more than 10 princes under Xie Qitian. Xie Qitian's talent was average, so he might not have that much power. There's probably someone else helping Xie Zhen. Could it be Xie Qiyu? This was because only these 2 people wanted Lu Ming dead the most. At the same time, Xie Zhen had previously sent someone to assassinate Xian Yanqing. Therefore, he was the most likely to be the one. Xie Zhen. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with killing intent. This person was someone Lu Ming had to kill. After thinking for a while, Lu Ming exited the mountain and river diagram and continued in the direction of the depths of the Abyss Demon Realm. This time, Lu Ming slowed down. Along the way, he encountered many Masha clansmen who attacked him. They were all in the Spirit Embryo Realm. There were those in the 7th, 8th, and 9th level of the Spirit Embryo Realm, but Lu Ming easily killed them all. However, not a single point appeared on the Jade Token. Did Xie Qitian lie to me? A cold glint flashed in Lu Ming's eyes as he continued to fly. A day later, Lu Ming had no idea how far he had traveled. A city appeared in front of him. From a distance, there were people on the city. It was a human race martial artist, not Mo Sha. This should be a gathering place for humans. Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he flew toward the city. If there were people, they could ask them about Xian Yanqing. As Lu Ming approached, the people in the city noticed him and looked at him coldly. It's the human race. On the city wall, someone muttered, his eyes bright. Who are you? Someone on the city wall asked. I've just entered the Abyss Demon territory. Please let me in. Lu Ming said. I'm new. The eyes of the person on the city wall brightened. Since you're a human, come in. Lu Ming nodded. He flew up the city wall and headed into the city. This city wasn't big, and there were even fewer people on the ground. At a glance, other than the more than 100 people on the surrounding city walls, there were less than 200 people in the city. All of them were sitting cross-legged on the top of various buildings, as if they were cultivating or meditating. Chapter 1138. 1138 Chapter 1138 Scam. As soon as Lu Ming flew into the city, many pairs of eyes looked at him. He's a newcomer. It's not the time for the royal family to send people to hunt down the Mo Sha clan yet. It seems that this person has offended the royal family and was exiled here. He's so young. I'm afraid he's a heaven's favorite from some force. He must have a lot of money on him. Leave this person to me. I need raw gemstones. He said. Bullshit, who doesn't need raw gemstones? This kid is mine. Voices rang out all around as they stared at Lu Ming with burning eyes. Naturally, Lu Ming heard these voices as well. He furrowed his brows and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. It's mine. A burly figure rushed out with an angry roar. He raised his hand and slammed it down on Lu Ming. The space trembled continuously and a powerful force surged toward Lu Ming. This was a first-level spiritual god realm expert. You're looking for death. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold as he struck out with his palm. His palm was like a heavenly blade, cutting into the man's palm. With a cracking sound, the man's palm bone was broken by Lu Ming. He screamed and retreated frantically, looking at Lu Ming in horror. This person has some skill. Let's attack together. Kill. Someone shouted and 7 to 8 figures pounced on Lu Ming. These 7 to 8 figures were actually all spiritual god realm experts. Some were at the first level of the spiritual god realm, while others were at the second level. The highest one was at the third level of the spiritual god realm. The 8 of them attacked at the same time, and the momentum was extremely shocking. All kinds of attacks covered Lu Ming's entire body. If it were an ordinary third-level spiritual god realm martial artist, he would have been injured or even suppressed under the siege of so many experts. However, how could Lu Ming be compared to an ordinary third-level spiritual god? Activating the prison suppression heaven art, he struck out 8 palms in a row. Bang, bang, bang. There were 8 explosions, followed by the sound of bones breaking and a series of screams. The 8 figures spat out blood and fell back, heavily crashing into the surrounding buildings. Regardless of whether it was the first level, second level, or even the third level spiritual god realm expert, they would all end up the same. Lu Ming had shown mercy. Otherwise, they would have all died in one move. Everyone in the surroundings gasped and looked at Lu Ming in shock. It was too terrifying. With just one move, he had severely injured all 8 experts, including the third-level spiritual god realm. What kind of combat strength was this? Moreover, he looked so young, which was even more unbelievable. Could it be a heaven's favorite of the big shots outside? Someone said with a trembling voice, causing everyone to shiver. At this moment, no one dared to make a move. Although there were several hundred people in this city, it was impossible for all of them to be at the spirit god realm. In fact, most of them were at the spirit embryo realm, and there were only a dozen or so people at the spirit god realm. Lu Ming's cold gaze swept across the surroundings. When those people met Lu Ming's gaze, their hearts trembled and they did not dare to look directly into his eyes. Lu Ming took a step forward and appeared above the third-level spiritual god realm expert. It was an old man with white hair and a thin body. He looked at Lu Ming in horror. Lu Ming's palm contained a terrifying power, but it did not explode. He had a feeling that if it had, he would have been dead. "Young hero, please spare my life." This old man was momentarily confused. The old man begged for mercy. "Tell me, why did you attack me the moment I entered?" Lu Ming asked coldly. "Well, we were forced to do this." "Young hero, you must have just entered the demon realm of Tartarus, right? Let me explain it to you in detail." The thin old man sighed and began to explain in detail. As it turned out, these people had offended the royal family, or they were people who belonged to the ancient Saint dynasty. Because of their mistakes, they had been exiled to the Abyss demon realm and were forced to kill the Masha clan to atone for their sins. However, there were countless members of the Masha clan in the demon realm of Tartarus, and they were everywhere. It was very dangerous. As for human warriors, they absorbed and refined the demonic chi very slowly in the Abyss demon territory. As time went by, the raw stones they brought would be used up. If they refined the demonic chi too slowly, it would be very disadvantageous for them when they fought the Devil Clan. Sometimes, it wasn't them who hunted the Devil Clan, but the Devil Clan who hunted them instead. They had no choice but to gather together and build a city to resist the Devil Clan. This was also the reason why Lu Ming could see this small city. And what was the most precious thing to the people of the Abyss demon realm? Of course, the raw gemstones were the most precious. Therefore, when they saw that Lu Ming had just entered the Abyss demon realm, they were naturally greedy and wanted to take his raw gemstones. To put it bluntly, they were just a group of pitiful people. "All of you can leave now, I won't make things difficult for you." Lu Ming waved his hand and dismissed the few people who had attacked, leaving only the old man behind. The skinny old man had the highest cultivation level among them, so he should be the leader. "Young hero, do you have any other orders?" The skinny old man looked at Lu Ming, feeling a little uneasy. To be honest, he had lived for so many years, but he had never seen such a terrifying young expert. "Let me ask you, the reason why the royal family banished you here and ordered you to hunt down the Masha clan was to obtain points, right? Once you have enough points, they will let you go, right?" Lu Ming asked. "That's right, that's indeed the case. However, the points are just a scam." The skinny old man gritted his teeth. "A scam? What was going on? Why didn't I get any points from killing the Devil Clan?" Lu Ming asked. "Young hero, the royal family told you, how many points do you need to get out?" The skinny old man asked. 10,000. Lu Ming said. 10,000? The skinny old man's eyes suddenly widened. He gasped and his face was full of disbelief. Lu Ming frowned, waiting for the elder to continue. Young hero, in my opinion, the imperial family has no intention of letting you out. They want to lock you up here for the rest of your life." The old man said with a bitter smile. "What do you mean?" Lu Ming's eyes lit up. "Young hero, you still don't know how to get points, right? Let me tell you, killing a demon clan below the spiritual god realm doesn't give you any points. You can only get points by killing a spiritual god powerhouse or above. Killing a first-level spiritual god will earn you 1 point. Killing a second-level spiritual god will earn you 2 points. Killing a third-level spiritual god will earn you 3 points, and so on. Killing a 9th-level spiritual god will earn you 9 points. Killing a perfected spiritual god will earn you 10 points. Killing a supreme being from the Masha clan will earn you 100 points, and killing an emperor-level Masha will earn you 10,000 points. The skinny old man explained. Damn it. Lu Ming clenched his fists tightly and his eyes were filled with killing intent. He understood that he had been tricked. Xia Qitian, a dignified sage emperor, had actually lied to him. According to this point conversion, how could he possibly obtain 10,000 points? Killing a first-level spiritual god from the Masha clan was only worth 1 point, while killing a perfected spiritual god was only worth 10 points. Even a supreme being from the Masha clan only had 100 points. This meant that he would have to kill 100 supreme beings in order to accumulate 10,000 points. Also, an emperor-level Masha would give 10,000 points, but killing an emperor-level Masha. Let's not even talk about whether there was an Emperor Realm Masha clan in the Abyss Demon territory. Even if there was one, Xia Qitian might not be able to do it himself, so how could Lu Ming? Chapter 1139. 1139 News of Xian Yanqing. Perhaps Lu Ming would never be able to obtain 10,000 points in his entire life. They wanted to lock Lu Ming up in the Abyss Demon territory for the rest of his life. What a ruthless and brilliant method. Lu Ming's body exuded a cold killing intent, causing the thin elder to shiver. We'll talk about everything after we find little Qing. Lu Ming heaved a long sigh of relief and retracted his murderous intent. Senior, do you know the whereabouts of the 16th princess, Xian Yanqing? In the end, Lu Ming asked the question that he wanted to ask the most. The demon realm of Tartarus was too big, and it was no different from looking for a needle in a haystack. This old man had been here for many years, so he might know something. The 16th princess? Are you talking about the princess with the royal bloodline? The skinny old man said. Not bad. I have some impression of her. The 16th princess was exiled to the Abyss Demon territory 3 years ago. When she first came here, her cultivation was still weak, so she stayed in the periphery of the Abyss Demon territory for a while. Later, she stayed in this city for a whole year. I'm quite familiar with her. Sigh, it's a pity that the royal family treated such a rare and proud daughter of heaven like that. What do you want from her? The skinny old man said. He let out a long sigh as if he was feeling sorry for Xian Yanqing. Upon hearing this, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. I'm her friend. Senior, do you know where she is now? I don't know. The skinny elder shook his head. The royal family asked the 16th princess to have the same amount of points as you. She asked for 10,000 points. That's why she left this place and went deep into the Abyss Demon realm after her cultivation improved. Gotcha. The old man's words made Lu Ming clench his fists tightly. The killing intent in his heart could no longer be suppressed and burst out. Lu Ming's heart was very uncomfortable. His killing intent towards the royal family, Xie Zhen, and Xia Qitian was extremely strong. They were going to lock Xian Yanqing up in the Abyss Demon territory for the rest of his life. Especially 3 years ago, when Xian Yanqing's cultivation base was only at the spiritual ocean tier, they had locked him up in the Abyss Demon domain. One could imagine how much he had suffered and encountered danger in the past few years. At the thought of this, Lu Ming's heart was in pain. But now, Xian Yanqing had already entered the depths of the demon realm. Where was he? Lu Ming's thoughts drifted and he only calmed down after a long time. Senior, you can take these raw gemstones. Lu Ming gave the skinny old man a storage ring, which contained tens of thousands of raw stones. Then he soared into the sky and left the city, heading toward the depths of Abyss Demon territory. There were also days and nights in the demon realm of Tartarus. During the day, there was a dark sun hanging in the sky. At night, there was a blood moon in the sky. Moreover, when the blood moon was in the sky, the demonic chi between heaven and earth would be extremely dense. At that time, the fiend clan and demonic beasts would be stronger, while the human clan would be suppressed. The blood moon hung high in the sky, and the demonic chi was vast and mighty. However, it did not affect Lu Ming much. the 9-dragon bloodline burst out, and the rolling demonic chi was devoured and refined into essential core in a flash. Lu Ming flew at high speed, deep into the Abyss Demon territory. There would definitely be more human warriors in the Abyss Demon territory. There must be other places where humans gathered in the depths of the Abyss Demon territory. Lu Ming planned to find out more about the human gathering place. Whoosh! Whoosh! A sharp sound pierced through the air. A few black figures whizzed over and charged toward Lu Ming. The 3 fiend clan members were all extremely ferocious. They held bone spikes in their hands and charged at Lu Ming at a terrifying speed. Their auras were also very powerful. These were 3 first-level spiritual god realm demons. The blood moon hung high in the sky. It was extremely dangerous to walk in the Abyss Demon territory because many of the Masha clan would move out and demons would dance in chaos. Roar! The 9 dragons roared, and the devouring power enveloped the 3 fiends. They couldn't move at all, and their eyes were filled with fear. Then, the 9 dragons devoured the energy and blood essence of the 3 demons, turning them into 3 dried corpses. The 9 dragons had advanced to the 8th level of the divine level, and their devouring power had undoubtedly become even stronger. After killing the 3 first-level spiritual god realm demons, the jade token finally changed. A number appeared on it, 3. Lu Ming sneered coldly. Killing a first-level spiritual god realm demonic Sha clan member would only earn him 1 point. Compared to the terrifying 10,000 points, what was the use? Lu Ming continued to move toward the depths of the Abyss Demon territory. In a short while, the blood essence of the 3 first-level spiritual gods was completely refined by Lu Ming. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, the energy and blood essence of the first-level spiritual god realm were naturally of no use to him. In this way, Lu Ming advanced for 3 consecutive days. Along the way, he encountered more than a dozen attacks. There were attacks from the Devil Clan and the demonic beasts here, but there weren't many that were above the spirit god realm. Most of the attacks he encountered were from the spirit embryo realm. In 3 days, Lu Ming had crossed thousands of mountains and rivers. The human race. Kill him. A sharp voice rang out in front of him. Lu Ming could tell that it was the voice of the Masha clan. Following that, a series of rumbling sounds came from ahead. It was clear that an intense battle had taken place. Lu Ming did not hesitate and flew toward the source of the sound. It had been 3 days, and they were finally going to meet humans again. On a mountain range, 7 or 8 Mo Sha clansmen were attacking a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's cultivation was extremely profound. He was at the 4th level of the spiritual god realm, and he was fighting against 7 or 8 of the fiend clan. However, the 7 or 8 demons were all experts. The weakest among them was at the 2nd level of the spiritual god realm. The others were at the 3rd level of the spiritual god realm, and one was at the 4th level. The large man was at a disadvantage with so many of the fiend clan members joining forces. He could only block and not fight back. Break! The burly man fought back with all his might, killing a 2nd-level spiritual god realm Masha clansman with a single blow of his axe. However, his back was also slashed by a 4th-level spiritual god realm Masha clansman's bone spur, causing blood to flow out. He mustered up all his strength and broke out of the encirclement, fleeing forward. Behind him, the other Mo Sha clan members were chasing after him. The direction that the middle-aged burly man was running in was Lu Ming's direction. The middle-aged man saw Lu Ming after flying for a distance. "Little brother, let's go," the middle-aged man shouted. However, Lu Ming stood in the air, motionless. "Little brother, let's go. There are experts from the Devil Clan behind us." Seeing that Lu Ming did not move, the middle-aged man shouted again anxiously. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled into a faint smile. This middle-aged man was kind enough to remind him to leave. If it were an ordinary person, he would have used Lu Ming as a shield to buy himself some time. "It's just a few Mo Sha clansmen, there's no need to escape." With a smile, Lu Ming's 9 dragons bloodline emerged and the devouring power erupted with a loud bang, enveloping the entire Masha clan. Then, under the middle-aged man's horrified gaze, the bodies of the rest of the Masha clan quickly withered, except for the 4th-level spiritual god realm. In the end, they lost their vitality and turned into mummies. Whoosh! With a snap of Lu Ming's fingers, a ray of spear radiance flew out and killed the 4th-level spiritual god realm Masha clan member. His blood essence and energy were also devoured by the 9 dragons. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.